Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Thanksgiving and welcome back to the Let's Talk Live show here on LTL Media. I hope everybody had an amazing day with their friends and family. I'm sure that you're all still spending time with them, but I had some time today to come into the studio after I had my meal of food and all my BLTs, and I thought I'd come in and just create some content, bring some awareness to some things that are going to be happening over the next couple of days, and try to raise some money for Karen today. So I thought I'd come live and hang out here in the studio for a while. Hopefully people will kind of filter in and filter out as the night goes. And I hope everybody's not too fat. I'm sure everybody ate a lot. I'm not a traditional turkey eater, so we had ham. I spent some time with my mom this afternoon. It was great. She made a great meal. It was just nice to sit down and spend some time with her and, just reflect and think back and have some good overall conversations. But it was a really good time. I went home. I kind of relaxed a little bit. And then, I said, well, let me do a impromptu live. We'll pop up here, try to get some content going on the channel, raise some money for Karen, hopefully, and go from there. So very relaxed show. We're going to hang out here on this Thanksgiving. I'm going to look, seeing all the awesome names here in the chat. I see some Go Squad members in here, some moderators, and it's really nice to see everybody here. So I don't know. We'll just kind of work around this. I didn't have a big outline today, but some things that I want to announce. And then what I wanted to do towards the end, probably the majority of the live tonight, was we'll go back and watch Karen's hearing that was from the other day. I want to go through that as well. And I have a kind of a special photo to share with everybody here today that was just sent to me about 10 minutes ago. And I think you're all going to love that. And we'll do that here in a second. But before I get into all things Karen Reed today, I want to talk about a story that happened actually back in October up in Danvers, Mass. And I am so happy that there's going to finally be justice in this case. But I reported back in, let me just bring up this slide here, this article. So I reported back in October, there was a man named Chris Anderson, and his nickname is Ducky, and he is very well known up in Danvers. Hang on one second. I'm gonna turn my fan on. It's a little warm in here. He's very well known up in Danvers. Sweet guy. And I saw this story when it first happened, and it was four teens that actually had jumped him, lured him out into the woods up in the center of Danvers, lured him up in the woods and basically attacked him. And they had a couple of town hall meetings that I actually streamed here, and I was just really concerned about it. I've never met Chris, but from when I heard him speak, it kind of grabbed my heart. And I'm really glad. I mean, this is definitely justice. They finally arrested these punks that did this attack on him. So let me read through the story here from WCVB. 4 teens indicted in beating of a developmentally delayed man in Danvers Park. And I'm going to just kind of read through the story. I'm not going to play the video. So 4 teenagers have been indicted in the beating of a developmentally delayed man who was attacked in Danvers, Massachusetts in a park last month, police say. Christopher Ducky Anderson, 43, was assaulted on October 12th in the area of Holton Rich Middle School in Plain Park, officials said. On Monday, the grand jury indicted. I'm going to read the names. I'm going to read the names because these fucking punks, lured this guy out into the woods and beat on him. And you're going to hear about what they did to him here. And I don't care. I mean, they're printed names. They want to do adult crimes. They can go do adult time. So on Monday, a grand jury indicted Christian Ramos, 15, of Lawrence, and Danvers residents Armani Mendez, 15, Landon Chesna, 15, and Desan, I think it's Margarin, I might have that wrong, 14, according to Essex County District Attorney Paul Tucker. Warrants will also be issued for 2 other juveniles. However, the state does not allow people under the 14 to be indicted. Tucker said Anderson was lured into the woods behind the school where he was attacked by 6 juveniles. The assailants allegedly kicked Anderson and threw a bike at him. That's what these kids did to him. They threw a bike on top of this guy. Ann and his mother spoke out about the attack, and this was actually back at one of the last hearings. And quote, "It breaks my heart every day. I can't sleep at night, and it's hard." And he literally asked the select board to help him. He said, "Can you guys do more for me, please?" Anderson said, "I was really afraid of them always, and I was scared to death of them, those kids." And it goes on to say, with our nice pop-up ad here, you got to get that in, right? Antoinette Anderson said her son, who she called developmentally delayed, was at a park when he encountered the teens. She said he rode his bike. She said he rode away on his bike, but later was attacked behind the middle school. Quote, I'm sick to death with it. And then when they go and they damn near kill my son, who wouldn't hurt a flea, I've had it up to here." And I remember she did that. "I've had it up to here." Antoinette Anderson said that her son suffered broken ribs and in other injuries in his attack, and he actually had to be taken away in an ambulance to the hospital. They pinned him to the ground. They beat him. They punched him in the mouth, scratched his neck, broke 2 ribs, and kicked him. Yeah, classy, real fucking classy. The first thing that I look at this and say, where are the parents? Where are the parents? That tells you a lot about how these children are being raised. But I'm really glad and I'm really happy that there's going to finally be justice in the case, because it was sad, watching Ducky get up there and speak, and it really grabbed my heart. But it's nice that we're going to finally have justice in his case. All right, let's talk about an event that is going to be going on tomorrow. I'm going to share my screen here, and then I have a special update for everybody. So let me just bring this up. So tomorrow is Karen Reed Pink Friday, and it starts at midnight tonight. And I want to read this post via Kelly Reed on the Justice page a few hours ago. It says, "Happy Thanksgiving. I remember thinking last Thanksgiving next year at this time, this would all be over. The trial would be over. Karen will be free and rebuild her life, and the stress and worries that Bill and Janet carry each day will be lessened. Parents always worry a little, right? Apparently, God's plan is not yet finished, and as impatient as we are, we have to trust his timing. Justice is coming. For now, enjoy your Thanksgiving and your beautiful families, a delicious meal of food, eat all the pie, take a long nap on this rainy day, and rest up, because tomorrow we paint the town pink. From our family to yours, we love and appreciate you, and we wish you and yours a happy Thanksgiving." So Pink Friday is going to start tonight at midnight. All donations plus Christmas card wishes will be added to Karen's defense fund. We will donate just $5 or $10. I have over 30,000 subscribers on this channel. Okay. And I'm pretty terrible at math. So I'm going to try to bring the old, and maybe someone can get to it before me. I'm going to bring the old calculator up. All right. Let's do this. Let's bring the old calculator up. If I can find it. Right. Let's just say I got 36,000 subscribers on average. If we all, just every single person on this channel, donated $5, okay, have $180,000 for Karen. Just $5. Even if we just divided that in half, just say half the people on this channel, $90,000. That's all I ask. That's all I ask. And I'm going to share a QR code tonight that you all can click on, and it will be up on my screen through the remainder of this live tonight. So it says Pink Friday starts at midnight. All donations plus Christmas card wishes will be added to Karen's defense. And I'll let you know, any donation that comes through here tonight, 25% of that will be kicked back to Karen Reed's defense fund. So let's kick off Pink Friday. I'll start it now. We're going to start it now. So if you just donate $5 or $10, the amount of the card and stamp, Karen could have a couple of $100,000 for experts, attorneys, court fees, airfare, hotels, plus food. And let's make this Christmas as merry as possible for her. And there is a link on the Justice page there. And if you want to, I can't clip it off this, but that goes to her defense fund. And you know that I dropped that through the entire show as well. So I wanted to share that from Kelly. And then what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to show that QR code on the screen. And let me just bring my screen up for that. And then I have a photo that I want to share with all of you that just got passed to me actually a couple moments before the show. Do I have the QR code? I think I do. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. If you're here and you're watching, do me a favor, smash the like button. That makes a huge difference. Let's see. I have it. Haha. And let me just open that up, and I'm going to share the QR code on screen. And then I'm going to show you something that I'm going to do here for the remainder of the show. So let's bring this up. And if you're watching this and you're watching on a computer, and let's kick off Pink Friday now. If you want to donate directly to Karen, you can. And again, like I said, any donations that come in this evening through this show, 25% of that will be donated back to Karen Reed's defense fund. So you can click on that QR. You can scan that QR code. It would probably take her right to the defense fund, and we can start doing that. So what I'm going to do through the remainder of the show here, and probably through the month of December as well. Well, we'll just make that commitment through the month of December. Well, at the top, I've changed my little header up there in the corner, probably this corner of the screen up here. And you can see it. That is the QR code for Karen Reed's defense fund. If you want to donate directly, you can just scan that, and that'll stay up through the remainder of this broadcast. And we'll make the commitment to do that through the month of December up until Christmas. So you have my commitment on that, the Reeds. And I'm going to put a crawl here at the bottom. And if you can't scan the QR code, you can go right to Venmo, and it's Karen, KAREN/Reed, READ/1. And you can make a direct donation to Karen Reed's defense fund. I did see this. The Goodmans, thank you so much. $20 to kick it off here. And we'll get that added to the total. I don't know if one of my moderators in here, if they can keep track of it, that would be great. And then I just got $25 from Catherine. Thank you so much. She said Pink Friday. Lisa Joy paid $10. And she said Pink Friday just is coming. And then Leona Henderson, thank you so much. $20. So thank you, Brian, for everything that you do. Brian, happy Thanksgiving to all. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And let's do this. I don't see, let me keep a track. So we got 20. What did I say? 25. 10. And another 20. So we're at 75. Vixie Blades with £5 says Pink Friday, happy. Thanks, giving everyone love from England. Let's do this, though. If you can just donate directly to Karen, I'd love that. But if anything comes through here, again, like I said, I'll donate it back, the 25% back to Karen's defense fund. And I want to show you this. This was really cool. I just got this a couple of minutes ago. And I just want to make people aware. I want to make people aware of this as well, too. So just think. You have to think here. Let me see. So let's just think in general. No amount is too small. Even just $5, even $1 helps. Anything will help. And you got to think about it is that I don't want people to look at the defense fund site and see the 530,000 that is the rolling total right now. That has already been accounted for. That has been spoken for. And the additional 10 to 20,000 that's come in over the last week or so, that money's been already spoken for too. So any money that comes in just comes in and it gets spoken for. And Karen needs us right now. I am still working with Nick Rocco to get those prints that we had signed at the benefit for Karen. We're going to get those up on a raffle through the Justice page. We'll make that happen. And hopefully we can get some big money out of those prints. I got one that's solo signed by Karen, and then I have one that's signed by Bill, Janet, Karen, and Nathan. So I have the whole family on there, and I'm hoping that we can pull some really big money for those. I want to share a photo with you that was actually given to me just before I went live, and I love this. I got a smile when I saw it, and we have Bill and Janet celebrating at home, and they got the Karen cup there. What's this? I want you. Free Karen Reed. This is great. It's so lovely. And when I saw this, I just got a huge smile on my face. That was really great. As far as Karen Reed's Defense Fund, I'll drop the link here. That's great. So I'll post that up. I'll get that posted up on my Facebook page. I was allowed to share it, which was nice. And that's a really sweet photo. I love it. And I love the Karen cup. That's the collage. I love that. I don't know who actually put that together, but that is genius. And I always see it down in front of the courthouse when I'm down there. They have an easel with it on there. And I think that's just genius. And I love that little collage. That's great. But look how happy they look. Nice and happy. Hopefully they got to relax, have a good meal of food, and enjoy their Thanksgiving. Okay. Let's see. Let me just take this down. We had Pink Friday. I have the crawl on the bottom of the screen. If you have Venmo, you can donate directly via Venmo. And so what we had was Karen Reed, after hearing the other day out front of court, and I love that she, oh man, she gave it right back to the mainstream media about, you know, all these confession videos that they had been sitting on, and shame on you that you didn't share them. And it was a very sarcastic comment because we know the truth. They don't have anything. They don't have anything. And I want to play this. If you didn't get to see it, this was outside of court the other day. Let's play this here. Good for Karen. I love this.
Karen Reed was back in court today with her second murder trial fast approaching. Today's hearing focused on prosecutors looking to gain access to phone records from Reed's parents. Reed herself is fighting back on this. NBC 10's Eli Rosenberg is live outside court in Denham with new details tonight. Eli.
Glad tonight it is clear Karen Reed's second trial could look a whole lot different than her first. New witnesses, including possibly her parents. This as both prosecutors and the defense were busy today laying that groundwork as her second trial is fast approaching. It was clear Karen Reed had something to say as she left her latest hearing Tuesday in Dedham.
Isn't it amazing that ABC, NBC, Boston Magazine, and Fox all sat on alleged confessions and never publicized it? That's a fishing expedition. They don't exist.
Tuesday's hearing addressing a flurry of motions, including a move by Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan to gain access to phone records for Reed's parents, with Brennan telling the judge he wanted those call records and texts from the day Reed's boyfriend John O'Keefe died, from those 30 days prior. The reason? Brennan says he wants to see if it was unusual for Reed to call her parents in the middle of the night like he said she did, around 1 a.m. before
fishing expedition. They got nothing. There's nothing. This is just a metal with the Reeds, cause more havoc. They know they have nothing. They absolutely have nothing in this.
Keefe's body was located.
The inference is strong evidence that Miss Reed knew she had done something terrible. She knew she had struck John.
Mobster Hank, I don't prepare Brennan. This guy doesn't read anything. He doesn't prepare for anything. I mean, it was a complete embarrassment for the Commonwealth, just like Lally. And we saw Lally in there acting like a little schoolboy. And this guy, like I said, Brennan doesn't read anything, doesn't know anything about the case, openly admitting in the previous hearing before this, I never even watched the trial. I find this guy ridiculous. It's a complete insult that we have to keep. We're going to keep going through this. Karen Reed 2.0. The Commonwealth's going to completely keep pushing this, but I have a lot of confidence because they brought some heavy firepower in with them as far as the Reed's defense team. And we saw that during this hearing. We're going to get into that. as we play through the rest of this.
On O'Keefe, and she knew that she had left him behind.
Reed's lawyers fighting back, saying prosecutors did not meet the burden in their motion to allow that access, adding the Commonwealth already had Reed's phone.
This is a fishing expedition. Yeah. Plain and simple.
O'Keefe was found dead outside a Canton home in January 2022. And days later, Reed was arrested and charged, her first trial ending with a hung jury. The defense also filing a motion that it wants access to District Attorney Michael Morrissey's phone records, arguing he may have used a personal phone and a work phone to talk with court officials.
We have obviously reason not to trust Mr. Morrissey in light of his actions using this personal email account.
Yeah.
And the judge said she would consider that when both sides are due back in court here on December 12th. Meanwhile, both prosecutors and the defense have asked the second trial be delayed a little bit. Right now, it's slated for late January. They want it sometime in April. The judge said again today she's still considering what to do there. Live in Dedham, Eli Rosenberg, NBC 10 Boston.
I think, and this is my prediction. I have a strange prediction, and I'm gonna ask the chat. What do you think? Do you think that this will be scheduled for January and keep going on for the January 21st? I might have the date wrong, but is it January 21st that it's scheduled for, or do you think that this is going to push to April? I'm gonna wait a second in the chat. I'm gonna see what you all have to say. So I'll give you a second in the chat. Do you think it will be put January or April? January or April in the chat. 27th. Thank you. I thought it was the 21st for some reason. Mizzy in the house. How are you? Good to see you. April. Everybody says April. Okay, I'm going to wait. A lot of Aprils. Let's see. Did the cop daddy sign something in your new studio? They did. I have the actually, and you can't see it because it's not in this camera angle, but I have my LTL media sign that everybody comes in and they sign. It's over on this wall over here. And they actually signed that, but they didn't sign like a print or a poster or anything like that. They left me some window stickers, which were kind of cool. I got these like reverse window stickers, and I got a little side window here. I might just throw them up on there, but they, you can't see it from this angle, but they did sign some. A lot of people think April. I'm going to give you my prediction on this. It's probably half and half. I see like half and half. And I think that the reason that I think it's going to be January is what happens up here in January. Typically, we haven't been seeing it yet. I mean, yeah, it's been getting, we're getting a little bit of rain up here. It's starting to get a little bit colder at night. But what typically happens here in New England, I probably just gave it away. I mean, it's pretty obvious what happens here. We start getting snow. We start getting sleet. We start getting the cold. I have a weird feeling that Bev's going to want to have this happen in January, considering the fact of how many people were down in front of that courthouse during the last trial. So if we keep everybody out in the cold weather, maybe this holds a lot of the people and the supporters back that won't be out there in front of the courthouse. And I have a feeling that they're going to try to use that as a tactic. I'm going to tell you, though, typical New Englanders, we're going to bundle up. There's going to be more people that are out there. People will probably find a way to get heaters out there. I'm telling you, and get a bunch of people out there in front of the courthouse. I have a good feeling about that. I remember standing out there in January during some of the hearings and just being like, woo, and just layered up and crazy layered up. But the cold's not going to keep us back. Believe me, we will be out there fully supporting Karen. Absolutely. Let's see. Hank says, yes, Brian, my thoughts exactly. Less people outside. And maybe. Carla says, glove and hat, stop it. I think people will still go. 100% people are still going to be out there. You're not going to throw weather at us and say, no, they're not going to go. Because I'm telling you, people will just throw on thousands of layers of long underwear. They'll probably get like those hand warmers and have those through their whole suit. People probably be out there in freaking ski suits. Have at it, whatever it is. But it's not going to hold people back. It's not going to hold people back. But all right, so let's do this. Let's go run through the previous hearing that happened a couple of days ago. And, I'll keep this rolling. Hopefully we're going to make some money for Karen tonight. I just had another Cash App donation come in. And let's see. Cash App from Bernice, thank you so much. Sent me $10. So let's add that up. I think we're currently at 90, and we'll kick back 25%. And what I really want to encourage everybody to do, if you can, just go right to the top. If you can scan it, and you can scan the QR code that's up in this side of the screen up here, and that goes directly to Karen Reed's Defense Fund link. And then also, if you can't do that, you can just Venmo at KAREN/READ/1, and it's on the crawl there at the bottom of the screen. All right, let's pull up the hearing from the other day. We'll run through that. Hear absolutely how ridiculous this thing was. And I'll boost the sound for everybody so we can hear it. And here we go.
Good morning, Your Honor. Hank Brennan, on behalf of the Commonwealth, along with me is Attorney
Ooh, this feed's bad.
And also Attorney Laura.
Good morning, Mr. Brennan. Good morning, Mr. Valley. Good morning, Ms. McCarty.
Good morning, Your Honor. Elizabeth Little appearing on behalf of Defendant Karen Reed.
Good morning, Ms. Little.
And good morning, Your Honor. David Unetti.
Thank you, Rogue.
Good morning, Mr. Unetti. Good morning, Ms. Reed. All right.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson appears with me.
And that's Alan Jackson on conference.
We can't see you. Is that okay?
All right. Good morning, Mr. Jackson. All right. We have several motions this morning. Let's start with motion for admission pro hoc vici that you filed. And Mr. Unetti, I know these are freely granted, but I have a question about here. So you say good cause exists to grant this motion because Mr. Alessi has specialized skill and knowledge in representing defendants in matters of this nature. What do you mean?
Mr. Alessi is
Kelly Reed in the house. Kelly, happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you got a lot of rest. You deserve it. You've worked really hard, and you constantly work hard for Karen's. I would say, in Karen's defense and a lot of the PR for Karen as well, too. And this is what I want to kind of I want people to understand is that you have to keep in mind that the mainstream media is not helping Karen at all. Clearly, you just saw the way that she came out at them the other day outside of court. They're not doing any positive press. They're not out there telling the truth. I think Ted Daniels is really the only one that's been pretty good to Karen and getting the truth out there. So channels like us are needed. We need channels like us. Turtle Boy, The Glarer, Young Jerks, Tom CPU with the boots on the ground coverage outside of the courthouse, and Maza Media and Nurse Kim. And I'm going to probably forget everybody, but I don't mean to. Resistance to Silence when they're out there with the, in the Dedham standouts and all the boots on the ground stuff that they do. And they interview the locals, which is great. It's fantastic. And I'm probably forgetting people, and I apologize. LV Cops now are involved in this and doing a lot to help Karen Reed as well. So we are the positive press. And forgive me if I forgot anybody as far as all the amazing creators. You know who you are. You know who you are. And I'm just trying to rip them off the top of my head here. But, and then all those positive people that are on Twitter. I've been lately, the last couple months, really getting involved in my Twitter account and making sure that I'm putting good positive things out there and calling shit out, all those great people that are on those social media platforms and Facebook, keeping the activity going inside the justice groups and all the various groups that are out here supporting Karen. We are the positive press, and we have to take the responsibility, when we put things out there, that we have to take the responsibility that it's good, relevant information and it's positive, and just making sure that, we're all staying together as one. That's very important. We can't lose anybody in this fight. It takes from people that are on, the boots on the ground all the way up to the highest person that's been, covering this since, the previous April, Aiden Turtle Boy Carney, and everybody in between and the family, those are the people that we all need right now. We need to keep this together. We need unity. And I'm calling for that. So we'll get back to the hearing here. I just saw another dono come in. Yes, microdots. Thank you. Melanie Little. I'm sorry. Mark Betterow. They'll all come. Like I said, I apologize. I probably missed a few, but thank you for reminding me. Let's see. Carla Mast, $20. Thanks for all that you do, Brian. Donate to Pink Friday as well. We don't have no quit. Bundle up and buckle up. I love that. I love that theme. Let's see. I'm just a girl in a world. I love that. Member for 3 months said, keep up the strong work, Brian. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's get back to the hearing. We'll keep playing through here.
Decades of experience in the courtroom, both on an appellate level and on a trial level. He has handled many criminal cases over his career. I have actually
I did say Tom. Yep. I said Tom.
On a criminal matter. I know of no better trial attorney in the country than Robert.
I said Tom.
There are aspects of our defense that would greatly benefit from his expertise. I'd rather not go into the specifics in terms of the division of labor on our team, but I'd ask the court to, take judicial notice.
Let's recognize this Cash App that just came in. I got an 1111 Cash App from Julie. Thank you, Julie. I appreciate that. We'll round it up to $12. How about we do that? We'll round it up to $12. So let's add $12 to the total. And thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, let's keep playing through the hearing here.
Background with his experience, he is going to add value to this team and protect my client's constitutional rights.
Okay, so he's not a criminal lawyer, but he's a lawyer who does some criminal work. I just don't.
In pro bono, I believe.
Representing.
Thank you, Rogue.
Matters of this nature.
Of this criminal nature, he has represented criminal defendants throughout his career.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So let's go on to the discovery motions. We'll start with the requested records of Mr. Reed. I'll hear you, Mr. Brennan.
And there's something really funny about this guy's voice. Oh, what was that? I didn't notice that before. How the hell did I go back? Mazza, how the hell did I go back? Is it 11? No, what's the other way you go? Okay. I never noticed that. He looked at someone when he got up, gave someone kind of a grill. Shit, I went back too far. How do I reverse it? All right, let's. Who the hell did he side eye? He side-eyed someone over there. And I just always love watching Aiden in the background. This is good stuff. Watch Aiden through this. This is really good.
The Commonwealth has filed a Rule 17 motion to obtain phone records from William Reed for a 24-hour period. Secondly, the Commonwealth in that motion is looking for
we agree
records regarding call logs for a 30-day period for William Reed. Although a different motion similarly, the Commonwealth has filed motions simply for the call log for 30 days for Janet Reed. The Commonwealth
That's not
has
prepared.
a burden with two of these charges, one being second-degree murder, to show the element of knowledge. It is the government's burden to show that Miss Reed knew she struck John O'Keefe. Second-degree murder, as the court is aware, is a person committing an intentional act with a strong, plain likelihood of death. In a second-degree murder charge, there are a number of different theories that a Commonwealth can progress. It could be an intention to hit somebody, or it could be that somebody intentionally drove, struck somebody, left them behind, and didn't render aid knowing that there's a strong potential likelihood of death. When Miss Reed knew that she struck John O'Keefe is a critical issue in this case. Simply because the government has significant evidence outside of phone records to support and to convince that Miss Reed knew she hit John O'Keefe when she did. The government's
I love Nathan here. You see Nathan's face?
The records for 30 days to begin with that aspect of William Reed's records. Miss Reed calls her father and her mother a little after 1 o'clock on the night she struck and killed John O'Keefe. She called both of them, and those calls were unanswered, according to the phone records. The inference that a 40-something-year-old woman is calling her parents at 1:30 in the morning after this tumultuous event, the inference is strong evidence that Miss Reed knew she had done something terrible. She knew she had struck John O'Keefe, and she knew that she had left him behind.
Look at Aiden.
The 30-day period is an attempt to protect the privacy rights of William and Janet Reed by not asking for the call, the text messages.
You know what? It's funny when I go into these Twitter wars and I hear almost just what Hank Brennan just repeats. This is the narrative. This is the Commonwealth narrative. And it's funny. I always tweet this at Coffin Daffer. She has no answer. I'm telling you, people, if you're on Twitter and you fight with these fools and they come at you, all you have to do is just post one word. ARCA. That's it. ARCA. And you don't have to say anything else because they have nothing that they literally have they can't come back and have a rebuttal. It's literally over. I felt like Trump there for a second. I literally do it all the time. Jennifer Coffindaffer, I get in battles with her on Twitter and I just go ARCA and she just stops. I'm like, that's all you have to say to these crazy people. When they start bringing all this stuff up, she knows what she did. She called her parents to tell them about it. Just say ARCA. That's it. Just say ARCA. Dog bites, anything you want to throw out there. All right, let's keep continuing.
Not asking for SMS messages, not looking to forensically download the phone, just the call records, because I expect it will establish that there are no other calls in that 30-day period from Miss Reed to her parents at 1:30 in the morning.
But can't you get that from Ms. Reed's phone?
No. There were 2 search warrants from Miss Reed's phone.
I can't read them. The search warrant that was attached that I have isn't clear, so I'll need clear copies of those search warrants.
Those are provided by the defense. I can provide clear copies. The 2 search warrants from Miss Reed's phone are from a period of January 28th, 6 p.m. to January 29th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And the other one is January 28th, 9:30 to January 29th, 5:30.
Okay.
Yes,
so they're not in Miss Reed's record.
Exactly.
I am not looking to see any of the other numbers that the family called, friends, family, whatever their purpose is. I'm not looking to even see it. I want to see and demonstrate there's an absence of phone calls between Miss Reed and her parents the 30 days prior to when she drove into John O'Keefe. Now, it would help the defense. They want to expand that to 6 months or a year. I'm agreeable. Because if there was phone calls at 1:30 in the morning, I would not argue the inference that it was remarkable.
Get Aiden.
That would be an unfair inference. But in the absence of any other calls, it is terribly remarkable that she is panic calling her parents at 1:30 in the morning. And here's why it's important. The type of injury John O'Keefe suffered that led to
the dog
his
bites
death was a type of injury that was treatable. If he had received treatment within 1 to 2 hours, I expect that there are medical procedures that could have saved him.
Sure. Yeah. After they beat him up inside and then instead of dragging him outside to die on the front lawn at 34 Fairview, how about they just call an ambulance and just say, hey, there was a terrible fight and this gentleman got beat up really bad. And we call and get an ambulance there and save his life and bring him to the hospital. But instead of doing that, they knew that they had to cover this up. And they knew that Karen Reed was not part of their inner circle. We must protect everybody inside 34 Fairview. That is the thought in their head that night. So there's the beating and the merciful killing of John O'Keefe. And then what do? They drag him outside. They dump him on the lawn. And I'm going to use Alan Jackson's quote that we heard a lot during the last trial. What did he quote? Pin it on the girl. Pin it on the girl. That's the easiest way out of this. Pin it on the girl. And the girl being Karen Reed. So shame on them. Shame on them for killing Officer John O'Keefe. All right, let's keep playing through here.
They could have produced a drill and drilled it into his brain to create bleeding so it wouldn't swell, or they could have cracked his cranium. Now, certainly he would have suffered significant...
Well, they definitely cracked his cranium inside 34 Fairview that night when they beat him up. Hank.
And my expectation on my research as a witness will say life-saving procedures within the first 2 hours would have saved or could have saved John O'Keefe. And so if Miss Reed knew within the first 2 hours that she hit him and that medical procedures could have saved his life, then this is relevant material to show her knowledge that something dramatic had happened. And that's why I want the 30 days. Only phone calls with her mother and father, nothing else am I interested in. The second part is the 24-hour period with William Reed. The 24-hour phone records will show Mr. Reed's phone calls throughout that evening or that morning. And it's important because Mr. Reed had an opportunity to speak publicly, and he did so on Fox 25, which is the subject of another motion.
I love this one too.
And when he speaks to Fox 25, he gives what I see as an implied admission that his daughter told him that she had hit something. I think there's more to that story that will be explored.
Which was the traverse in John's driveway.
The phone calls to Miss Reed are important. They're reflected in her phone records in the morning that she speaks to her father while she's still in the back of a police car before she's brought to the hospital. In that discussion with Fox 25, the quote is, in your first discussions, my motion leaves off the S in discussion, but it's in the first discussions, what did she tell you? Mr. Reed asserts that she tells him about this implied confession at the hospital, which is after the actual first conversation.
Real quick, I just had a Venmo come in. Sue, thank you so much for the $10. And she says, free Karen Reed. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, let's keep playing through.
And so it'll be important.
We got a little while to go here.
Mr. Reed, if necessary, with his own phone records. He can deny his daughter's phone records. He doesn't have to accept them as true. Also, in that first 24-hour period, it is important for the government to establish that Mr. Reed and only Mr. Reed controlled the phone. In the absence of a stipulation, this is proof that may be necessary at trial if Mr. Reed takes the position that other people had access to his phone. That first conversation where she admits that she struck something, i.e. Mr. O'Keefe, is critical to the government's case. And so we cannot rely just on Ms. Reed's phone for a couple of reasons. Number one, phone records often show different communications. Sometimes calls or hangups don't register on a phone, and so they could be different. Secondly, I've learned that Ms. Reed's phone was sent to a taint team. And
taint team. Joseph, thank you so much. $2 says Karen Reed, 12:36 a.m. at One Meadows, miles away. Officer John O'Keefe, 34 Fairview. Yes.
And the Commonwealth does not and should not know.
Yes,
what,
yes, yes.
Was redacted from Ms. Reed's records. The idea of sending it to a taint team, I surmise, is that something was viewed that determined that it should go to a taint team, or perhaps the defense raised the issue. I don't have the benefit of the history. But what I do know is we cannot say that the records from Ms. Reed are a full accounting for her records.
I like this right here. Lettuce de Betero. I love that name, by the way. It says he's focusing on anything they can use as character assassination because there's no evidence of this crime. Why isn't he looking at all the inconsistencies instead of focusing on the parents' cell phone records? How about this? How about he focus on Jen McCabe's cell phone and the Google search at 2:27 a.m. that she did? Why not focus on that? That might to lead to some things here. Huh, Hank? What do you think? Why are we not focusing on that? Why don't we start pulling phone records of everybody that was at the house that night and seeing the conversations they were having? How about the geofence data?
Reed's records stand separately from Ms. Reed's records.
Oh, look at those LV cops in the house. There's my boys right there.
From William Reed. I've been careful.
I'm excited for turkey BLTs tonight. I love that. Good to see you, Steve. If that's you, if it's Gonzo, if it's Brian, thank you so much for coming down here and having a fantastic live before you guys all went and headed back to Vegas. You are true class gentlemen. Very, very nice guys. We had a lot of fun in here. It was probably one of my funnest lives that I've done in here. And I look forward to when you guys come back out and have you back in here. We'll have a lot of fun again. But that was awesome. That was really, really awesome. And happy Thanksgiving to you and your families. Appreciate that. All right, let's go. And make sure to subscribe to LV Cops.
I'm not looking
Get over there and subscribe.
Physical phone. I'm not looking for a forensic download. After the first day of Mr. Reed's records, all I am looking for is call subscriber information and phone registers. I note the defense point of collateral information. I don't even want to see it. I just want to see communication between Ms. Reed and her parents, so that if we present that inference, it is a sound inference, it is a fair inference, and it is a solid inference. And that's my argument regarding the phone records of Mr. Reed.
All right, who's arguing this for the defense?
I'm just a girl in the world. $4, $5. Thank you. Says keep being you. We'll keep being you. Thank you.
Your Honor, the defense requests that the Commonwealth's Rule 17 motion seeking Ms. Reed's father's private cell phone information be denied. The Commonwealth is seeking 3 categories.
You know, how about the phone call? Like, I drop John at the house and I don't know where he is. You know, how about that?
Categories of information for Mr. Reed's cell phone: his private subscriber information, all call records, call detail records, SMS, MMS, and all data use records from January 29th and January 30th, 2022. And finally, all call detail records for an entire month-long period spanning December 30th, 2021 until January 30th, 2022. Your Honor, we are 3 years into this litigation.
3
and
years.
The Commonwealth is now seeking to invade Mr. Reed's privacy under the
3
guise that
years.
it's seeking communications between Mr. Reed and his daughter. But the Commonwealth already has a record of all of the communications between Mr. Reed and his daughter on January 29th from not one, but 2 separate sources. The Commonwealth is in possession of Ms. Reed's cell phone. It's also in possession of Ms. Reed's Verizon records. The Commonwealth is asking this court to sanction this gross invasion of her father's privacy so that the Commonwealth can sift through Mr. Reed's electronic data for information that is already in the possession of the Commonwealth. Now, I know Mr. Brennan says, I'm not interested in seeing anything else. But the problem is that's not what his motion says, right? He's asking for every single call, regardless of recipient, for a month-long period.
Yep.
William Reed has never been called by the Commonwealth to testify as a witness in this case.
So this is a new trial, right? So that doesn't prohibit the Commonwealth from calling him.
I understand, Your Honor.
Okay.
He wasn't present at 34 Fairview. He wasn't present at CF McCarthy's. And he wasn't present at the waterfall on January 29th, 2022. And I would note that this court has repeatedly emphasized the importance of privacy concerns when it comes to an individual's cell phone, using that as a basis to deny the defendant's motions to obtain cell phone records from parties who were present that night. The Commonwealth, again, is already in possession of Ms. Reed's cell phone. That has been reviewed by both a special master as well as the court, and the court is well aware that the Commonwealth has a full copy of those communications. And what's important is that those call logs confirm that Ms. Reed
Joseph, thank you. $2 super sticker.
To her father
Appreciate that.
on January 29th until after she discovered Mr. O'Keefe lying incapacitated on Brian Albert's front lawn. And I've attached a copy of those records to our motion. It's quite clear. There was one call to her father on the morning of January 29th. That was at 6:32 a.m. The Commonwealth has a copy of those records. It's in their possession. And as this court knows, Lampron explicitly requires that any Rule 17 motion must be accompanied by an affidavit containing a factual showing that all 4 elements of Lampron were met. Here, the Commonwealth has failed to meet its burden to meet even a single prong of that 4-part test. In regards to the burden that they have to establish that the records are evidentiary and relevant, the Commonwealth in its affidavit set forth no particularized facts whatsoever to suggest that relevant information will be found in Mr. Reed's Verizon records. The affidavit makes only vague reference to an interview Mr. Reed gave to Boston 25, but fails to explain why that interview suggests that relevant communications will be found on his phone records. And I would note, the Commonwealth's characterization of that interview is incorrect and incomplete. I submitted additional reporting from Boston.
I'm just going to recognize this. We had a PayPal come through from Nathan. Thank you so much. $25. You did not have to do that, but thank you so much. And we'll make sure that I can't take that. I'm going to add, I can't take that. So we'll add the $25. I'm going to add another extra $25 on top of what we make here out of the 25% tonight. And I encourage everybody, if you can, top of the screen, you'll see the QR code way over there. If you can just click on that, if you're watching this on your computer, just a $5 donation to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. We're going to kick off Pink Friday right now on this Thanksgiving here. If you can, just donate directly there. If not, like I said, any donations that come in, I'll kick back the 25%. And of course, I'll keep that QR code up there. And if you want to donate directly, Venmo down there is KAREN/READ/1. That's a direct Venmo right to Karen Reed. And, we would appreciate that. So, okay, let's keep playing this.
25,
Nathan, thank you. You didn't have to do that, but I'm not taking that.
And it's quite clear that Mr. Reed was
thank you. Very kind.
during that interview that what he's referring to when his daughter said, "I believe I hit something," was the Chevy Traverse, which the court knows. We have a video of her hitting a Chevy
She said shitty.
The Commonwealth is already in possession of Ms. Reed's communications from January 29th. Those were included in the Commonwealth's motion itself. And the Commonwealth has failed to explain why it believes additional relevant communications will be found in the call detail and text records. That was not included in the affidavit.
All right, let me just pause this. Peggy, again, thank you so much. Huge supporter of the channel. A $200 super sticker, a super chat. I'm sorry. It says Karen Reed is factually innocent. Peggy, thank you so much. You have been a huge supporter of this channel, a huge supporter of Karen Reed, and just thank you. I really do appreciate that. So let's add that to the total. We have Ann from SB, another big supporter of the channel. I always see Ann's super chats in here. $20. Thank you. I appreciate that. Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that. So kind of everybody. Rogue, if you can do this, we're at 412. Just add on. Actually, you know what? I'll add that at the end. All right, let's keep playing here.
They expect to substantively admit the phone records between Ms. Reed and her father.
Peggy, thank you. I appreciate that.
The 6:32 a.m. call took place. But they can do that with the phone records that they already have. Just because they have records from Verizon, that doesn't establish who answered the phone. That's not something that they're going to get from Verizon. The Commonwealth is well aware of that fact because they have Ms. Reed's cell phone and her Verizon records, so they can confirm that there's only one call on the morning of January 29th. The Commonwealth has provided no factual basis whatsoever to suggest that there are relevant communications that will be found on January 30th, the day after this incident. And the Commonwealth also requests that Ms. Reed's phone records for the full month preceding January 29th, 2022 is necessary to show that it would be unusual for Karen to have called her father. And the Commonwealth did a kind of
perfect. Thank you, Rogue.
They suggested during their arguments that she called both parents in the middle of the night. That's not true. There was only one call to her father on January 29th, the morning of. It was at 6:32 a.m. So the frequency at which Ms. Reed calls her father's cell phone in the middle of the night has no relevance whatsoever. As to the second element of Lampron, here the Commonwealth's affidavit is facially deficient. It doesn't even reference this element or set forth any facts supporting that it's shown that the Commonwealth's records are not otherwise procurable reasonably in advance of trial. And the reason Mr. Brennan cannot in good faith make that statement under oath is because the Commonwealth is already in possession of these communications from two separate sources. Element 3
super fishing
was also not addressed in the Commonwealth's affidavit. It's facially deficient. The Commonwealth has failed to show that it cannot properly prepare for trial without the production of this evidence, and that the failure to obtain the evidence would unreasonably delay trial. Again, that's because the Commonwealth is already in possession of the evidence that they're requesting. Finally, the Commonwealth has also failed to show that this request is made in good faith and is not a fishing expedition. In its affidavit, the Commonwealth briefly addresses the fourth element of Lampron, but writes only, quote, "The Commonwealth's motion is not a fishing expedition, as it is evidence from the defendant's phone records that phone calls between defendant and Mr. Reed were made sometime after defendant struck the victim and before the victim was found." Your Honor, that statement is provably false.
Yeah, I'd
Ms.
say.
Reed's phone records established conclusively that she did not call her father on January 29th until 6:32 a.m. after she found her boyfriend incapacitated on Brian Albert's front lawn. Therefore, the requested records should not be turned over to the Commonwealth.
Nay, thank you so much. Look at this, a member for 8 months, 8-month celebration. Thank you. Says, love your work. You're definitely an honorable Aussie. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We love our Aussies. We love our Canadian friends that come over here and hang out on the channel. I really do. I appreciate it. And I don't know. You probably, if you're in Australia, they're not celebrating. No, because that's, yeah. All right. I was gonna say, you're not celebrating Thanksgiving over there. That's not your holiday. It's our holiday today. All right, let's keep playing through here.
This is a broad request to review a month's worth of Mr. Reed's private cell phone information and all of his data usage information from January 29th and January 30th. This is a fishing expedition.
100%.
Plain and simple. The Commonwealth isn't asking for the records it already has. It doesn't need a third copy of them. What it's looking to do is sift through Mr. Reed's personal cell phone information on January 29th to see if it can find data usage information, location information, text messages with other individuals, and that is a completely inappropriate use of Rule 17. This unsupported request is overbroad and must be denied. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Did you want to respond in any way, Mr. Brennan, or move on?
Very briefly.
Okay.
A lot of familiar faces there. A lot of people I know.
In between the multiple accusations of bad faith, what the attorney says that is most telling is,
oh, thank you.
Answered the phone.
Thank you so much.
That's a harbinger to trial. The prosecution doesn't know who answered the phone when Karen Reed called her parents or her mother's phone at 1:43 a.m.
What?
No, the Commonwealth doesn't. And so we have to prepare that when Mr. Reed takes the stand, we have phone records demonstrating all of his phone calls and that he had control of that phone.
Again, this is intimidation by the Commonwealth. They're going to start trying to get every member of the Reed family up there on the stand. They're trying to scare Karen and her family by this bullshit pressure that they're trying to put on the family. You know, when Mr. Reed takes the stand, and then what? You're going to start going after her mother? Then you're going to start going after her brother? Like, what is it? That's what you're going to do now to intimidate them? Let's get them on the stand, see what they have to say. That's what's going on. Total fishing expedition. Total fishing expedition. Let me get to this. Robin G, thank you. 8-month memberships. 8-month membership. Says tomorrow is Pink Friday. Everyone donate to Karen Reed's defense fund. Yes. And I have the crawl at the bottom of the screen. We can kick off Pink Friday today. And as you know, all the donations that come in through here, I donate 25%. So I'll kick off Pink Friday via that. And also on this side of the screen up in the corner, up over there, way over there, there's a QR code. And if you want to scan that, that'll take you right to the defense fund link as well. All right, let's keep going.
So there can't be a suggestion somebody else was handling the phone. Or, on the other hand, if the position is going to be that Janet Reed answered the phone, the father's phone, or that William Reed answered the mother's phone, we'll call both witnesses.
Good call out.
Sort it out. But it is that very nature of suggesting confusion or uncertainty that the government is obligated to try to prevent that trial. And we're being diligent, we're being studious, and we're going to be prepared. And these records will help us do that. That is the exact.
You're going to be prepared.
Why we need these records. Thank you.
So we're going to be prepared, and then you'll hear later on in this hearing, oh, I didn't read that, and I haven't gone through that yet. And no, I didn't get that information yet. This guy, or I didn't read that yet. He doesn't read anything. He's never prepared. And I think that's going to be by design in a little bit of it to try to push this to April. But we'll see.
All right, did you want to respond at all, Ms. Little?
Well, I think the Commonwealth actually brought up the issue of, it tried to basically say, I need the Verizon records because Karen's phone records don't establish that Mr. Reed answered the phone. But all I'm saying is that neither do the Verizon records. So there is no additional information the Commonwealth is going to obtain by digging through Mr. Reed's private cell phone information.
Okay. All right, so we sort of overlap.
All right, real quick, I'm going to get this. Nay, thank you so much for being a Go Squad member, and the $10 Aussie will make that $10 US. It says happy Thanksgiving to you all. We don't celebrate in Australia. Yeah, naturally. Gratitude for everyone's support. I don't have my glasses on. For Karen, it could be me. It could be me. It could be you. It could be any of us. Again, thank you, Brian. Boomerang, love to all. I love that. I love that. And don't mess with kangaroos. They'll kick your ass. I've seen some videos. They're pretty nasty. They'll kick your ass. Let's see. I love this too. I just saw this little chat pop up. What the Duckling? I love that. Go Squad member says, "Hey Brian, I'm an hour late, but I've seen this about 3 or 4 times with other creators. I love all the reactions. Most have the same feedback." Yeah, we're pretty much on the same plane. We know what's going on here. All right, let's keep playing through here.
A little bit with Mrs. Reed, Janet Reed's records. Do you want to be heard further on that, Mr. Brennan?
Another fishing expedition. Dark Willow, $5 for Pink Friday. Thank you.
I don't, but thank you. Ms. Little, is there anything specific to Mrs. Reed that you want to address?
Yes, Your Honor. Again, I just emphasize that the affidavit in support of the request for Ms. Reed's phone records is plainly insufficient. They haven't addressed numerous elements of land crime. That alone is a basis to deny the request, and it's not permissive. It's mandatory that the court deny the request. Land crime is very clear. If you don't meet a factual showing in the affidavit in support of your Rule 17 motion, then the motion must be denied. 3 of the elements were not even addressed in that motion. So on that basis, we request that the court deny the motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we will move along now. Both of those are under advisement. We'll move along now to it's paper number 405, Commonwealth's renewed motion for all audio recordings, notes, emails, text messages, voicemails, and the possession of Gretchen Voss and or Metro Corp. I do have an opposition that I received this morning. In an affidavit from Robert Birch, attorney Robert Birch, who I think is present in court. So, Jim, did he file an appearance too?
Yes, previously.
And we'll use that in this case as well. All right, so Ms. Little, you did not intend to argue that, right?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, so Mr. Brennan, I'll hear you, and then Mr. Birch, I'll hear you.
The Commonwealth has filed a motion to reconsider in part, and in addition, there was a request for information that was not requested before by the Commonwealth. Your Honor made a ruling in the past to turn over portions of the materials, and in that ruling, it invited the Commonwealth after review to renew or reconsider the motion or the extent of the motion. I've had an opportunity to listen to the hearing. I've had an opportunity to review all of the pleadings relative to the Boston Magazine and Ms. Voss information. And I've had the benefit of observing numerous other statements that have been made by Ms. Reed publicly. And I've been able to contrast and compare the statements made to Ms. Voss as well as the statements made to a number of other media organizations, including Dateline 2020 and Vanity Fair. And after a review of all those materials, it is clear that there is significant materials that were not turned over to the Commonwealth that are relevant material and substantive evidence in this case. In listening to the past hearing, the position of Boston Magazine was that almost everything was entirely on record and that there were a few interchanges by the attorneys. Not only did I have an opportunity to read the Boston Magazine article and listen to the interviews, but I had them transcribed, have a copy for the court if the court pleases.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
And there were two different interviews that were turned over. One was represented at the last hearing, that it was 4 hours long. The Commonwealth received...
It's crazy too, and I was just thinking about this, going back and watching, the O'Keefe family, everybody's sitting so far apart, Paul on the complete opposite side of his mother, a lot of dynamic there. And then you just look at the support. Like, let's just divide the courtroom obviously down the middle by the aisle, right? You look on the side of where Karen Reed is, there's 40 people, maybe 50 people sitting on the side with Karen. And then you look at the O'Keefe side and there's just there's no one there. It's just really interesting. We saw, it was the time that I sat in, I think it was 3 hearings before the trial. And one of the hearings that I sat in, Jen McCabe sat right in front of me. It's funny. You don't see any of them around anymore. They're not coming around. The McCabes, the McAlberts, they're not showing up. And it's just this outpour of constant support on the Reed side. It's just it's an interesting and amazing dynamic to see that. All right, let's keep playing through here.
3 hours and 19 minutes. It's missing, not a little bit, a significant portion of that hearing, 40 minutes. The second interview was represented in the audio recording of court that I listened to as a 2-hour interview. The Commonwealth received merely 19 minutes. So the majority of that interview was not provided. And so there wasn't just a few redactions, they were significant. In addition, which is notable, and you can glean this from the transcripts, is that there wasn't just a few interruptions. Mr. Yannetti is noted on the transcript 37 times, Attorney Little 33 times, and Attorney Jackson 33 times. And so there are significant interruptions and redactions in both recordings. These redactions in the recordings are important. One thing that stands out when you actually listen to the interviews and you look at the transcripts is that many times during the attorney's interruptions, there's a redaction, and then when the conversation resumes,
super dysfunctional.
There is a change, sometimes subtle, sometimes not so. There is a change in the statement by Ms. Reed. And so it is clear that there is an inference that in those redacted portions, there is conversation or consultation or discussion happening that changes the direction and sometimes the content of Ms. Reed's statements. That bears directly on the credibility of the witness. Because be mindful, all of her statements are admissible. All of them. They're all substantive evidence. There's no hearsay. There's no limitation. They are statements of the defendant. They're material and relevant, and the Commonwealth is free to use any and all of them at their discretion. And so it's not only what she says in the interview, it is what is missing in the redactions. Now, certainly, there may be discussions in those redactions that involve her attorneys and Ms. Voss, but none of that is protected. None of
Gretchen Voss was in the courtroom that day, too.
The defendant enjoys many privileges, but when an accused decides to cast aside their privileges, they don't get to add their own layer of protection. There's absolutely no basis in our jurisprudence for a defendant to be able to do that. They enjoy a Fifth Amendment privilege as they should. A defendant is presumed innocent. But when they cast it aside, it's at their own peril. They have an attorney-client privilege. But when they obviate the attorney-client privilege by speaking in front of a third party that's not part of the prosecution team, that privilege no longer exists. It dies. And there is no reporter privilege in Massachusetts. And so what has happened in this interview is that we have 3 attorneys, a defendant, and a reporter having a free reign of interview, and then later deciding what parts of the interview they want the public to hear, what parts of the interview they want the Commonwealth to have possession of. They don't have, respectfully, that choice or that power or that discretion. They can contract with each other have their own side agreements and what they want about on and off the record, but it doesn't bind the Commonwealth. It never has, it never will. We don't agree to it. And so what we have is many instances and examples where those redacted portions are critical to understanding why the story at times changes after the redactions. And so I think of it this way. If Ms. Voss was called to testify by the Commonwealth at trial, and we have her on the stand, and I was to say to her, I've received your recordings and your redactions, and I've read your article, Ms. Voss. I want to ask you about the conversation after Ms. Reed talks about sipping drinks at the waterfall, and it's redacted. I want you to tell me what she said. There could be no objection for the defense that there's a private agreement. There could be no objection from the defense that somehow it's privileged. She would have to answer the question, this is what Karen Reed told me. So to suggest that pre-trial, somehow they can have this protection that doesn't exist in reality in the law to protect statements that the defendant or their attorneys made that they don't want the Commonwealth to learn about is just...
You know, I find it funny, and it's almost ironic that we're talking about interviews on and off the record. Okay. Now, they want to bring that information in, which is a total fishing expedition, which they're not going to find anything anyway. But we're not allowed any of the federal information in this case. That was nope. No federal information. We cannot talk about it. We cannot say anything about it. We can't bring it up. That information's not allowed. But let's just bring in a whole bunch of stuff that some reporters from an article, because that's the linchpin. We're gonna bring that stuff in. That's where we're gonna get Karen. Notes from a reporter from an article, transcribed, but can't bring any of the federal information in. It's one of the weirdest dynamics that I've ever seen in a case. Federal information. All right. Nope.
You know, I'm not
articles, bring them in.
Oblivious to the fact that there are a number of statements that are made that are redacted.
Yeah, 100%, Peggy.
Where the defense attorneys are present in the room. There is no attorney-client privilege at that point. There's none. Arguably, all three of the attorneys are witnesses as well. Now, Commonwealth is not heavy-handed. The Commonwealth does not want to disrupt the defense team. The Commonwealth does not want to delay this trial. The Commonwealth does not want to put an attorney in an uncomfortable position. But they're all witnesses to a substantive statement. Many of them admissions of guilt, contradictions, all of them in the most respectful way.
And every single witness that was brought on the stand in the first trial, Jennifer McCabe, she didn't contradict statements. Are you fucking kidding me? Brian Albert didn't contradict statements. Are you kidding me? I mean, we watched it happen where Jackson would end with Jennifer McCabe on a Friday and she would come back on Monday after the weekend, and then her testimony changes. She contradicts herself. Okay. I see how it is, Hank. Keep battling, Hank. Keep battling.
Pursue those. The strongest
okay.
The fairest way to pursue those with moderation.
A mission of guilt. I love that one too. Right?
Now, in the pleadings, I received the response this morning. I didn't get to read the entire thing. I have no objection to it.
Yeah, he doesn't ever read anything.
But I did listen to the hearing. And it strikes me that the argument of the newspaper company was primarily based on two propositions.
He needs that book, Law for Dummies.
Commonwealth versus Doe, promulgation. Those cases, when you read them, deal with confidential informants. Not confidential information or what someone wants to be confidential. It's not even confidential. She said it. She said it. There's a difference. And Your Honor pointed out in that hearing. Could you give me a case that talks about confidential information as it does confidential informants? And respectfully, there was no case to be produced because there is none. The cases are dissimilar because they deal with trying to get to a confidential source that may expose a source that never even may not be used at trial anyways, because it's based on hearsay or there's no factual basis for it. This is not a confidential informant. The defense chose a strategy, a very strategic strategy, to sell their story and disseminate to the public, potential jury pool, in a way they thought best fit their needs. And they've done this continually. And although an attorney cannot produce evidence to the public or encourage it, it violates the rules of professional responsibility. They cannot have a statement that is meant to reach the potential jury. A defendant can. The Commonwealth does not resent that Ms. Reed has made statements to all of these different outlets. She's entitled to. She's presumed innocent. She can make all the statements she wants. But when she does, there is a consequence for that. And they now bear the consequence of these statements that have been made. And so
I always love David Unetti's reactions when he looks over at the Commonwealth when they're talking, and his reaction's always like, I always think him like saying in his head, like, you got to be fucking kidding me. I always love that. I want to just call this out. Katie, thank you so much for the $20. We'll add that to the total. She said, happy Thanksgiving and congratulations on the new studio. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. I always think that like Unetti's looking over, he's like, you're gonna be fucking kidding me. All right, let's keep playing through here.
Since it is not a confidential informant, it's a very public, identified person. It's Ms. Reed herself. The argument of Doe and promulgation has no merit. I know Your Honor was troubled by the affidavit of Ms. Voss and that she was afraid for her safety. And from a personal level, I empathize. In this case, firsthand, I've never seen anything like this, where witnesses have to fear walking out of their car.
Empathize.
It's repugnant. It undermines the fabric of the judicial system. But Ms. Voss isn't alone, and I have empathy for her. Almost
it's so tough.
Civilian witness for the Commonwealth has sustained similar or far more egregious abuses. It is awful.
It's awful.
Harassment and intimidation that someone must suffer because they're simply a witness.
Because they said a few things to you.
A witness in this case, she's in no different position. It does not impede the progress of the Commonwealth. It does not impede the fact-finding mission. It's unfair. It shouldn't happen. Something should happen as a result, but it has no bearing on the analysis in this case. It just doesn't. And so there is a ton of conversation that has been redacted arbitrarily by parties that want to use what's in their best interest, but cover up what doesn't help them. The Commonwealth is entitled to it, and we're seeking it and we want it. We want all the redactions in the first and second interview. Over 75% of the second interview is redacted. We want the notes from the third interview. Ms. Voss is a witness. She wasn't at the scene. She didn't see Ms. Reed drive into John O'Keefe and leave him in the snow, but she's a witness to substantive statements, her statements, admissions, confessions.
Confessions. I love this. Piney Woods, Lauren Crime, thank you so much. $10. $10 super sticker. Super sticker. I wanted to pull this up too. I can get my mouse to work here. I love this. M.A. Settle says his wife holds his gonads hostage at home. I love that. I needed a good laugh today. Let me do this one too. Jojo, thank you so much. Just came in. $20 saying Hank does not impress me. But what he's asking is a threat to journalist privilege, to protection of their sources. This is a slippery slope. I agree, but we're dealing with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're dealing with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts here. And you know how this is all going to probably end up going. So we want the reporter's notes, but all that federal data that we have, the federal information that literally clears Karen Reed of all of this, all the ARCA information, that we can't have in the trial. Can't do that. But the journalist notes, because those are confessions, that's what we gotta. You see where I'm going with this, folks? You know, it's like the curtain that gets pulled back. The Wizard of Oz. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. Don't look at the man behind the curtain. That's what's going on here. I think you're getting my drift.
Those notes
I mean, it's so clear and evident. It's so clear and evident. It's funny. You know, I always go back and I talk to a bunch of people and they say, you know, they might not be so into the case as we all are, right? And they might go back and say, hey, I just, you know, I know that you cover the Reed case on your channel, and I went back and actually watched, you know, some of the first trial, and they go, all those people that are up there, were those the people that were on trial? And I'm like, yeah, you would think so, right? You would think so. And hopefully these roles will be reversed someday, and they're all sitting at the table that Karen's sitting at, and her lawyers are up there at the podium, you know, drilling into these people. But it's just so evident of what's going on here. All right, let's keep going.
In the email or text message and phone call, again, statements to the defendant. Ms. Voss, reporter or not, is a witness in this case.
A witness.
Some of the most crucial damning evidence in this case. We're entitled to it. We take no exception for it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Birch.
Going to be the lawyer for.
Thank you, Your Honor. Robert Birch for Metro Court and Gretchen Voss.
Gretchen Voss.
I've been here before, Your Honor, on a remarkably
similar
motion.
Before we get into this, I just want to do this. We're kicking off Pink Friday here. 25% of any donation that comes in to my channel tonight, we're going to kick that back to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. And if you want to just donate directly, you can via the QR code that's at the corner of that side of the screen up in the upper corner. If you're watching this on a laptop, maybe your friend's phone, and you can just scan this as well. Take your phone out, scan the QR code, and just give $5. No amount is too big or small. Let's just get as much money as we can into the defense fund. I know that everybody goes over the defense fund. They see that $530,000 that is spoken for. It is gone. And then just the recent 10 or 20,000 that has come in, that is gone as well. I am still working on getting the prints that we had signed by Karen and her family up on the justice page so we can do a raffle for that. I want to bring in big motherfucking money for that. I want to bring in some big money for that. So hopefully we'll get those up soon, and you all can start getting your raffle tickets for that. And what else? And then if you can't scan the QR code, if you go down to the bottom of the screen there, I got a crawl, and you can just donate directly to Karen Reed's Venmo. That's KAREN/READ/1 and make a direct donation right to Karen Reed's Venmo. All right, I'm going to keep playing this. I got to use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. I'm going to go full screen for everybody. Oops.
And said that 2 audio tapes.
There you go.
Minus.
This is where we had. I remember this. We had video issues. This is not me. This was the camera that froze. But I'm going to play through this and use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Comments would have to be produced, and the one-on-one off-the-record interview between Gretchen Voss and Ms. Reed did not have to be produced. And the Commonwealth has simply made no persuasive showing as to why the decision should be any different now. The Commonwealth makes much of the fact that there are heavy redactions on the shorter of the 2 taped interviews. They refer to it as a 2-hour interview. Actually, it was a 1-hour interview, according to the affidavit of Gretchen Voss, which had been submitted with our original opposition to the first motion. So it wasn't quite as lopsided as counsel is intimating. But in any event, the reason for the redactions is that the Commonwealth made a point in its original motion that it was not seeking anything but the defendant's statements, that it did not want colloquy of attorneys. It did not seek what the attorneys were saying. And it said that over and over in its original motion. Now it's suddenly changing the rules and says, oops, we've decided we want those after all.
Didn't I leave that open for them though? Didn't I leave that open for them to come back even at the first trial? To come back and request it upon review of the first
I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
I left that open for the Commonwealth to come back the first time even, right? The first trial. And we have here now a new trial. We have different attorneys presumed with today's motion on both sides. So why are we focusing on what they requested first and what's different than now?
Well, Your Honor, I think the burden on the press is, it's still the prosecution seeking information from the press. They got a certain amount of it. They're now asking for more of it. And the question is, why do they need that more? They had made a determination at one time that in order to be fully prepared for trial, they only needed a certain amount. And they only did not need attorney's colloquy. And now they're saying the attorney's colloquy is central to what they need. They can't have it both ways.
Okay, go ahead.
I agree.
The change of subject from one before and after a colloquy, he says, bears on the credibility of the defendant. But if the defendant contradicts herself in the course of an interview with Gretchen Voss, I fail to see how that has the impact of serving as grist for impeachment at trial. And one has to wonder whether this motion is really an effort to keep Ms. Voss off the stand and off from reporting, because she, in fact...
Hang on one second. I'm just going to reshare my screen. I don't like the way that this is. There we go. The top of the screen was getting cut off. All right, here we go.
Has suffered, as Your Honor noted at the earlier...
Yeah, this is pretty unimpressive.
Harassment. And Your Honor noted in your order that the disclosure of the material sought would require her to divulge information that will hinder her ability as a journalist to assure sources that she will keep certain information confidential. That's what she averred. And her affidavit also details the harassment she's endured since the publication of her article, and her fear that if compelled to turn over the requested material, in particular the handwritten notes of the off-the-record interview, she'll be exposing herself to further harassment and endangering the safety of herself and her family. And Your Honor wrote, given the extraordinary public attention and scrutiny given to this case, and her fears for her own safety and that of her family are no doubt warranted. And in light of the concerns set forth in her affidavit, the court concludes that the asserted damage to the free flow of information is more than speculative or theoretical. And you said it was a close call, but given making the division, what I call the Solomonic division of providing some and limiting others, seemed to make sense. So what are they seeking now that they didn't have before? Well, in addition to seeking the redacted portions of the interviews, which Metro Corcoran's counsel undertook at time and expense to redact them to accord with what the subpoena as approved, what the subpoena as issued had asked for. They're asking now for the handwritten notes of Ms. Voss of a one-on-one off-the-record interview that she had with no attorneys present. Those are handwritten notes. There's no audio tape. They are partial notes. They are
get it out.
They're phrases. They're not complete thoughts. They're more jog memory sorts of telegraphic mentions. So it seems likely that if required to turn over these notes, which essentially represent the work product of the journalist.
I just want to address this, Maya. I get it. You know, I get it. I understand people want the fast. This is not about fast forwarding through the hearing. I want to keep this channel and this avenue open as long as we can today. So I really want to just play this at normal speed. And the reason I want to do that is we're trying to kick off Pink Friday today. And that's for Karen Reed's Defense Fund. If you look over at the top of the screen, there's a QR code. You can scan that with your phone and donate directly to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. If you don't want to do that, or you don't have the ability to do that, and you have Venmo, you can go right to the bottom. You see the crawl there on the bottom of the screen. That has Karen Reed's Venmo, and you can just donate directly right to Karen Reed's Venmo. So that's why we're taking our time today and going through this. I want to keep this channel open for about another hour. Hopefully some people can come in and through the kindness of their heart today on this Thanksgiving, if they'd like to donate directly to Karen's Defense Fund, we'll make that happen today. So that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do today. All right, let's keep going.
And her personality as expressed in her.
Thank you.
She takes
That's awesome.
If forced to produce that, it's very likely the next step is that the Commonwealth is going to want to depose her or call her a trial in order to explain those notes and interpret them. And that's going to take us down yet one more rabbit hole in this case that this already had so many. It would also have the effect, maybe the calculated effect, of preventing Ms. Voss from covering the trial.
Hang on a second.
Because if she is called as a witness, she is not permitted to sit in the courtroom for the proceedings.
So she did attend the last trial, right?
She did, because
on a
she
daily
was not on the
basis,
witness list.
right? On a daily basis.
Sorry, saw someone pull in to the parking lot.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And that was Ms. Voss who just responded to you?
I'm sorry.
That was Ms. Voss who just responded to you, yes, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And finally, the Commonwealth asked for,
Excuse me,
for the first time, for texts between Ms. Reed and Ms. Voss. And we do have texts. They are the manner in which they get forwarded from.
No, you can donate directly via a debit card or credit card. Is how I do it when I do the big donations at the end. What I'll do is I'll drop let me drop her defense link. There's the defense link. You can click on that and just donate if you have a debit card. That's how I do it. And you can't do it PayPal, but you can do definitely a debit card. And I just dropped the link there for you. Appreciate that. All right, let's keep playing through.
An iPhone is that they come out without the name of the speaker. You can sort of guess at the name of the speaker, but you don't see the name of the speaker. You also don't see the date and time of the communication. I'd ask that we're willing to turn those over. They were not off the record, but I ask that we be able to turn them over in that form, which is the form we have them in, rather than go to whatever expense and trouble to replicate a different format.
Okay,
And that's all I have.
all right. Thank you very much. Mr. Brennan, I'll give you a chance to respond.
Awesome.
I do have a question for you based on Mr. Birch's opposition. If you've got the opposition with you, Mr. Brennan?
I have a copy.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to respond to is on page 5. First full paragraph, the paragraph begins that this litigation, but the sentence is, in other words, the Commonwealth says it needs more audio because the redacted audio provided thus far either contains no damaging admissions by Reed or reveals that she was not entirely forthright in her unsworn press interviews with Voss. What do you say about that? You touched upon it when you started your argument today about inconsistencies. What's your argument to that specific?
Having received this morning, having not had an opportunity to read it, could I just have one moment to read it in context?
Sure.
Thank you.
This guy he's never prepared for anything. He's never prepared for anything. He's always got to read it. I didn't read it. I didn't look at it. Oh, I can look at it now. I wasn't prepared. I love it. Becky, thank you. $20 says I may have did the, let's see, the last one wrong. Happy Thanksgiving from Wisconsin. Love it. Thank you. $20.
Two separate ideas.
He doesn't read anything.
The first is the Commonwealth says it needs more audio because the redacted audio provided thus far either contains no damaging omissions by Reed. The audio provided this far contains many damaging omissions to Reed. In her first interview with Gretchen Voss, she talks about when she dropped John off and where she dropped him off. It's noticeable in many, many interviews, the story changes.
Let's see. Lieber in Seattle. Let's read this. It was a good chat. She said, you think the publication the size of Boston Magazine would have stronger legal arguments? I wonder if it's international that they want, if it's intentional that they want the records released. That's almost too conspiratorial for me. It quite possibly could be. I mean, with all the attacks, with Gretchen Voss, all the screaming, I haven't seen any of it. Oh, all the attacks. Yeah, I mean, it could be. It could be. And that's why I think Brennan has been thrown at like, oh, I haven't read it. I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at it yet, because I think they want to get this trial moved to April. I think he's doing it on purpose.
At one point, she has them going to the side door of the house. In fact, in 3 of the interviews, he's going to the side door of the house. In a further interview, she says he went to the front door of the house.
Excuse me.
Subtle.
100%.
The stories and the versions given by Ms. Reed evolve in time. Coincidentally, they evolve sometimes with the production of Discovery. And so I am not suggesting for a second that there are no damaging statements by Ms. Reed. In fact, there are confessions, there are admissions, and there are contradictions based on later statements given. And so all I can simply say is that is not the Commonwealth's position. That is stated wrongly. Also, or it reveals that she was not entirely forthright in her unsworn press interviews with Voss. Well, we're entitled to take her statements with Ms. Voss and compare them to all the other statements she made. 2020.
Oh, I'm going to bring this one up. Mark Betterwetero. Love the avatar. Says, I predict Karen Reed will take a plea deal once all the new evidence is presented to the defense team. Brennan will be pursuing a second-degree murder charge, and the risk for Karen Reed will be too great to overcome. I'm going to tell you right now, you obviously didn't read the Vanity Fair article. Karen Reed is not going to take and never will take a plea deal, because you know why? She didn't do this. And why fess up to something that you didn't do? Okay. Also, I'm going to say this right to you as well. And it's fine. I want to address this. The trolls are fine. I get it. I get it. But I'm just going to say this. ARCA. And I'm almost going to guarantee you, this time around, if we go back, Karen Reed 2.0, it's probably going to be a demonstration video for the jury. And they're going to show with all the scientific data and all the physiology that they'd studied between Karen Reed's SUV and John O'Keefe's body, the injuries to John O'Keefe. And what did they say at the end of their conclusion? Karen Reed's vehicle did not hit Officer John O'Keefe, and John O'Keefe never made contact with Karen Reed's vehicle via the injuries that are in his body. And I'll even add this to you too. I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of reporting on Trooper Enrique Delgado Garcia. Okay. And I've had the privilege to look at photos of him while he was in the hospital. I saw the injuries. The family shared that with me. Now, I'm not going to, I can't release them. I don't have them. Okay. That's something that's never going to be in my possession. But I can honestly 1000% tell you that the injuries that I saw on Trooper Enrique Delgado Garcia and the photos that we've seen of Officer John O'Keefe, the injuries that were to him, are 100% comparable. And you know what that leads me up to? We know that Trooper Garcia was involved in a training boxing exercise. No, it was a beating. He was beat. He was beat to death. And if you put those injuries side by side, they sure look a lot like John O'Keefe's injuries. So that tells me that John O'Keefe was beaten as well and then dragged out on that front lawn to die in front of 34 Fairview. All right, let's keep going on.
Vanity Fair, Dateline, and others. And so the question isn't whether her statement to Voss or Ms. Voss is accurate. It is in comparison to other statements. Is it accurate? And we know that it's not. There are many instances where she has given different statements between versions. Also internally, in Ms. Voss's interview, as I mentioned, there are statements, redaction, a return, and a different statement. For example, she was only sipping at the waterfall, which would suggest further drinking. And then after a redaction and interruption, she's sipping water at the waterfall, as incredulous as that may be. And so clearly something happened during that redaction that changed the admission to drinking alcohol, which is part of this case, to something of water. And so I think that the claim in this motion really has no relevance to the analysis. It's not on point. The reason I said there was a 2-hour interview, and I'll accept that I'm wrong, is when I listened to the FTR tape, counsel respectfully said it was a 2-hour interview. And that's where I got my information from, not Ms. Voss's affidavit. So it may have been a 1-hour interview, which still leaves us with 1/3 of the interview, 2/3 redacted.
Just recognize this. SPKNTC became a new member. So let's add $5 to the total. And I appreciate you becoming a new member. You get all access to all the members only content. And that is on my homepage. That is on my homepage. All right, let's go.
That is significant. The Commonwealth comes back. We're entitled to come back when we want, if we have a good faith basis and if the court invites us. We come back now after I've had a chance to actually listen to 4 hours of interview, or you add them up, 3 hours and 40 minutes of interview. I've studied them. I've listened to them many times. I've ordered transcripts. I've perused the transcripts. I've compared the two. I've compared them to all the other statements. So time has now made these much more relevant than they maybe initially thought. I can't speak for the Commonwealth at that point. We're entitled to the full force of our proof. We don't have to just take some. We don't have to take a fraction. Just because it's inconvenient or uncomfortable for parties, the government is entitled to the full force of their proof. And representing the people of this Commonwealth, I am pursuing the full force of our proof in every aspect because we're entitled to it. It is notable in the FTR hearing that counsel for Ms. Voss and for the publication said that the third interview they discussed, and the parties, meaning the defense
Scott,
attorneys,
same to you, my friend.
The defense
Enjoy.
attorney,
You deserve it.
And Ms. Voss could decide to use that material. It wasn't that it was precluded or no one could ever see it. It's only if it helped them. And so he said that they agreed that if they wanted to, they could use that material. They just decided not to. Because they decided not to use incriminating information in their story doesn't give them the power to decide who does and when they do. So we're entitled to the full force of our proof, and we're going to pursue it. We're entitled to all of these records, all this information. There is no legal argument against it. None.
You go, girl.
All right.
You go.
So I know, Ms. Little, I asked if you wanted to say anything. I just give you that opportunity. Was there anything you wanted to add? Okay. All right, so that is taken under advisement. Now we have 3 more motions. I understand Mr. Albano is here, who will be filing an appearance if on all 3 or arguing all 3. But
how about Karen's team?
Mr. Albano, you can come forward, sir.
How about Karen's team bringing in some law students, bringing in those law students? How good is that? How good is that for their resume? We're going to get through this. We're going to win this case. How good is that to be on their resume that they were involved in the Karen Reed case and involved in total vindication? Great use of resources.
And Mr. Brennan, do you want to argue?
Great use of resources.
Individually, it appears I did get an opposition this morning that goes to service, which pertains to all 3. But do you have different arguments, a little bit different on each?
I do.
Okay, so Mr. Albano, do you want to be heard after?
Yeah, and the lawyer's new is pro bono. I love that.
Heard at the end of the 3. There are 3 motions. FXT TV, Boston 25, WCVB TV, Hearst Television Incorporated and ABC, and NBC 10 Boston. Okay, thank you. And again, on these, Ms. Little, you don't expect to argue.
Excuse me.
Okay. If you do change your mind, just stand up and let me know. No, that's fine. Okay. All right, I will hear you. Why don't we start with the FXT TV, Boston 25. It's paper number 400.
As has been discussed, Fox 25 and its employees conducted an interview of William and Janet Reed. I've quoted on subsection 5 some of the language from that interview. And during my quote, it says, during your first discussion with Karen. It should say, during your first discussions with Karen.
Glare in the house. Happy Turkey Day, dude.
Your first discussions with
Karen. It's nice to see you up here. You were up here for quite a while, and we see you in the hearing here. It's good to see you. And hopefully you had a safe flight home, a happy Thanksgiving today. And it's good to see you in the chat. Shout out to the Glare, everybody. Let's give them something in the chat here. All right, let's go. And again, it's Pink. We're kicking off Pink Friday today. You see the crawl at the bottom of the screen, and you can just donate directly via Venmo to Karen/Reed/1, or up above. I get the QR code there in that side of the screen if you want to click on that and donate. And then obviously any donations that come through the channel, I always kick back at least 25% to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. So let's kick this off. Pink Friday, Pink Friday, Pink Friday. We'll do it now. And I know a lot of you have donated to the Karen's Defense Fund so far. So we appreciate that. And like I said, earlier today, I have over 36,000 people on this channel. If just $5 from each person on this channel donated to Karen Reed's Defense Fund, that's $190,000, $180,000. And if we just even got half of the people to do that, you'd be at 90 grand. All right, let's keep playing through.
Did you believe she may have hit John?
Did she believe?
Yes.
Okay, I thought you said, did you believe?
Then I misspoke. My apologies. Did she believe she may have hit John? William Reed responded, no, she felt she struck something. She said, Dad, I think I struck something. I said, what do you mean, right? This was in the hospital, right? She says, I remember, all right, backing up and hitting something.
Which was the Traverse, John O'Keefe's Traverse.
Police looking at the phone records that are available for Karen Reed and seeing there was a phone conversation.
And let's do this. I'm going to play this, but let's do this.
That morning,
for all the people,
William Reed's phone.
We'll just make sure we get this right.
Before Karen Reed is admitted to the hospital. And so it is by inference in the back of a police car at the scene. Now, there's some ambiguity during your first discussions. The operative word, as I see it, is first. It is a particularly remarkable statement to make that in the throes of realizing the great tragedy that's unfolding with John O'Keefe lying.
I want to share this. Let's just show I did this enhancement quite a while back. I mean, this is back in 11 months ago. December 15, 2023. I went through the video of Karen Reed backing into Officer John O'Keefe's Traverse. And it's enhanced. You can see it. You can see the tire move. Let's play that. Here's her backing up. And you can look on the bam. Look at that. See that movement? Right-hand side of the screen, maybe your left-hand side, depending on where you're looking at the screen. But take a look here in this area. There's where she made contact. So if anybody wants to deny that she didn't hit John O'Keefe's Traverse, it's right there. You can see it. Look at that. I threw some arrows up in there to show the movement. You see a tire move forward. So yeah, I mean, that's where the taillight cracked. And if you want to watch that video, I'll drop it here in the chat. You can go back and watch that. I dropped that. I made that video like 11 months ago. There's some commentary on there. You can check it out. All right, let's go back to the trial, or the hearing, I mean, from the other day. And we'll play this out. Again, we're kicking off Pink Friday. You can see the QR code on the top hand side of the screen up above there. If you want, you can just take your phone, scan that QR code, donate directly to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. If you don't have that ability to do it, the crawl on the bottom, if you have Venmo, it's Karen/Reed/1. You can donate directly. And then anything that comes through here, 25% of that will be kicked back to kick off Pink Friday. All right, here we go. Hank the Mobster Brennan. Let's go.
In the snow dying. That the comment of thinking that they hit supposedly now another car in a driveway hours earlier would be the topic of conversation.
Siri, thanks for the $5.
There is not a fair inference that would be the subject matter. It is not a fair conclusion that a person would be so fixated on a mere nudging of another car that caused no damage hours earlier when we're dealing with the potential loss of life. And so I think it is reasonable to infer that that was actually not the complete statement. The conversation lasted on that morning for over a minute, and there was certainly conversations after. And so the defendant's father has, as he's entitled to, utilized media to try to sell a story to help his daughter. And during that airing, it is clear and obvious that not the entire conversation with William Reed has been provided. During these stories, oftentimes there is summaries to progress the episode much quicker. And so all of his statements, which may not be a lot, but all of his statements to that employee of Fox 25 who did the interview should be discoverable so that this statement can be put into context. Some of the doctrine of completeness. We should know what the entirety of the conversation interview was so that we can assess this statement and draw the proper inferences from it. It is expected that William Reed very likely will be a witness at trial. He will be asked about this conversation. He may be asked about what else he had said. It will be impossible at trial then.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
The other statements that he has made to this network or this employee. And so the Commonwealth or anybody who would be questioning him would be just simply left to the whim of his answer. And I'm not satisfied to do that. I do not think there is any protection. He is not a defendant. There is no privilege. And so there is no reason to protect this information so that it can fairly be brought into context so that when he is cross-examined, if there is evidence of impeachment or cooperation, that both sides are aware and know of the substance of that material. And that is the reason we request the pleading in number 400 for the Fox 25 footage that was not aired.
Okay. Have you had a chance to read Mr. Albano's opposition this morning? It's not very long.
I haven't, but I can say Mr. Albano kindly called me.
I haven't. Again, unprepared Hank. Unprepared. I haven't read anything. I'm never prepared. I didn't see it. Okay. All right, Hank.
He outlined the issues in the email. He made this a much more streamlined and agreeable process. And so I credit him with his effort. I don't need to read his response. I'll appreciate what he says.
Okay.
My short interaction with him, his total candor, I have no hesitation what he says in his representations. I might disagree, but I don't need to read his pleading.
Okay.
There are two, NBC and ABC. Your Honor would allow me to start with NBC because I think we can streamline that. NBC 10 has agreed to give promo materials in their possession. I've not only spoke to Mr. Albano, but I've spoke to the attorney for the subsidiaries that we also had subpoenaed. And they told me that as subsidiaries, they do not have possession of the materials of the parent company. And I received letters from the attorneys stating as much. So as it pertains to NBC 10,
it's insane. This is where they think they're going to hang Karen Reed on all this stuff now. All this, footage and blurps and blips. That's where they're going to, and I go back to this. So we're going to let in blurps, blips from the media, but we're not going to let in federal documents that literally outline the whole case and say, 227 absolutely happened. And Karen Reed didn't hit John O'Keefe. That we keep out, but we get blips and blurps from the mainstream media. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense, right? Let's pull this up. Peaches, thank you so much. Becoming a new YouTube member. I appreciate it. All right, let's keep rolling on. We got about another just less than a half an hour to go. If you'd like to donate directly to Karen Reed's Defense Fund, you can via Venmo at Karen/Reed/1. Or you can click that QR code. You can scan the QR code at the top of the screen. Or you can donate directly to the link that I just dropped in the chat. Donate directly to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. If you want, just leave a little note on there. Pink Friday. LTL Media Pink Friday. If you want to do that, it'd be great. We'll kick off this Pink Friday. Starting now. Started early, right? Early and often. All right, let's go. Let's finish this up.
That one of the subsidiaries is going to send us promotional materials. And as far as service on the parent company, I don't think the Commonwealth succeeded, despite the fact that we made numerous efforts in hand mail, UPS to a number of subsidiaries. I don't think we've satisfied. So
thank you.
I want to ask the court to progress that.
Okay. Do you have a timeline on when you'll get this material?
The promotional materials?
Yes.
They said they were putting them together. I did not ask for a timeline.
Okay.
The promotional materials are a very small fragment. It's I've only seen one clip aired. I don't know what else they have, but it should not take them long.
Okay. I don't have a paper number. Jim, do you have the paper number?
Erica, thank you so much. $50. Whoa, $50. Thank you. Holiday Vendor Craft Fair, 12/8, 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. That's going to be at the Star Drive-In in East Taunton. You did not have to donate. Oh, Erica, you didn't have to do that. I do appreciate it, but there is going to be an event, yes, at the Star Drive-In if you're local here in Massachusetts in East Taunton. And that's going to be on December 8th from 5 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. I'm pretty much slated to be there, so I'm going to be down there and help out, meet and greet, shake some hands, thank people for their contributions, and I hope I get to see a lot of you down there. And then I'm going to plan something here at the studio to do like a in-person invite with some subscribers here if you're in the local area. We'll probably do some tickets, and then 100% of all the ticket sales, we'll just donate that to Karen Reed's defense fund. So I'm going to be planning something like that. And then maybe in the future, you know, we have some of the creators back in town, and we can do a bigger event where we can all be together and general public can come through. And I don't know, I get a large parking lot here, so maybe we can do something like that if I can work it out with my landlord. But thank you. I appreciate that, Erica. All right, let's keep playing through the hearing.
On NBC 10. You know what you mean? You can give it to me after. I don't have that paper number or the other one. All right, so do you want to?
427, Your Honor.
What is 427?
I'm just gonna talk to Nurse Kim and ask her how she did her. She did like a little fan get together, and I want to talk to her and see how she ran it. And you know, like I said, you know, we'll open it up so the public can come through and tour the studio or something like that. We'll do like a meet and greet, and then all the money that we get for tickets, we'll donate it to Karen's Defense Fund. I thought that'd be a cool idea. All right, let's go.
All right, so do you want to move on to CVB TV?
Yes.
Okay.
WCVB TV has been served, and they've notified that they're not in possession of the materials, have no control over the parent company, and they are not part of the company. And so I no longer am asking WCVB TV to produce these materials. Instead, in the alternative, we have subpoenaed the registered agent in Massachusetts, the registered agent for the parent.
I'm gonna fix this camera. It's up
They have
high. I gotta bring it
served.
down.
If you look at the Secretary of Commonwealth of Massachusetts Business Entity Summary website, not only do they have a principal place of business in New York, but they also have, as a registered agent, a local address, 84 State Street. So our position relative to the ABC materials is that ABC has been properly served locally. Unlike NBC, that did not have a local registered agent that we could find, or perhaps does not have one, ABC does. ABC does business in Massachusetts. In fact, these interviews with Ms. Reed may have taken place in Massachusetts. I don't know. But they have roots in Massachusetts in that they do business here. They have a local registered agent. And the reason to have a registered agent is to accept service, provide notice in cases of objections, and to provide materials. It is done routinely in civil cases when a registered agent is notified. They are then obligated to get materials even if the REM exists in a different place. Their position is that the REM exists in New York. That is irrelevant to the assessment in this case. To suggest that somehow the physical property being another jurisdiction is not in the control or purview of the local registered agent would just be enacting a shell game where local or companies could pick jurisdictions they find most favorable, do business in outside jurisdictions, and avoid the consequences of that. That, I don't believe, is how the law is set up. As a registered agent, they are the same as the company. They just have a local contact to accept all types of service, communications, and responsibility.
Let me just pause this real quick. Joseph, thank you. $10. There's a lot of folks saying Professor Fink or Pee-wee, but to me, he looks like Buddy Love from the original Nutty Professor. Hey, laddie. Yeah, he does. He does, actually. That's how I always get that in my head. I got to do like a side-by-side. I'm going to put something together after this. I'll do like a side-by-side. I hate Hank Brennan and a Nutty Professor, and I'll get that out there. I'll put it out on Twitter. Also, what I was going to say is at the end of this video, I have a little bonus footage for you all. If you didn't see it the other day, I want to play something, and we'll talk about that here in about 20 minutes or so. And I want to play a little bonus footage. And also, let's just see. I had a Cash App come in from Pamela, $10, says pink for free Karen Reed. Thank you, LTL. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, let's go.
And so our position on ABC as far as service is concerned is they've been served through the
wait to see what I'm going to play you.
Whatever materials exist, regardless if they're in Massachusetts or in New York, They are required to obtain them and they're required to produce them.
Okay, so Mr. Albano disagrees with you, and on the third page of his memo under paragraph 5, so I will give you the opportunity to read that.
Okay.
Under that 5th paragraph. Do you want to address the substance of your motion regarding ABC?
I do. Much like other recorded statements, we see from the Nightline in the 2020 interviews, there are a number of public statements that Ms. Reed has made to a national audience that don't reconcile with other statements she has made at other times. I've given you the example of not knowing which door she supposedly saw John and Keith go into. There is differences in her stories and versions about where she was that night after she left the O'Keefe house. There is a number of examples where the different versions given contradict each other. And so although they're all substantive statements, they're all admissions and confessions, they still have a value in the fact that they contradict each other. And so the episode that is aired on 2020 Nightline, you hear oftentimes the author of the story, not even the interviewer, the author saying, and we spoke to the person, and then this is what happened, and then they go to a clip of an actual interview.
Let me just get to this. Dewey, know a bit from a bite. I love that. $5 says for Christmas. I think it's annoying. Kid in the Polar Express movie, but more full of shit. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's play.
By the author is not admissible. It can't be used substantively. It can't be used to impeach Ms. Reed should she testify. It is hearsay. It's inadmissible. And so these summaries have a genesis somewhere. There's a reason why the reporter is asking certain questions, or more importantly, the author is summarizing testimony, oftentimes inconsistent with other versions. And so that means that there is footage from which the author has gleaned this information. There's either footage or there's a conversation with Ms. Reed. And so those are statements, not unsimilar to,
right,
or dissimilar to Ms. Voss interviewing here. Those are statements of a defendant, which are substantive evidence for their full value. And so that footage we're entitled to see. There's nothing that should protect it. We should have the opportunity to review all of the statements and also put the ones in context that were broadcast to the nation. And that's the substance of why we want it. I'll have to take a moment to look at the response.
Okay.
These guys, you gotta look. He never reads anything. He never prepares.
Sure.
I need a moment. This guy.
Jim, does this have a docket number yet?
I'm gonna speed this up until they get back up to the podium.
Paragraph 5, it's on page 3. The page is unnumbered.
This guy never reads anything. He's never prepared.
Why don't you have a seat and read it?
Why don't you have a seat and read it? And that's probably what Yannetti's saying. This fucking guy is never prepared. I mean, at least Lally had a stack of disorganized papers, but he was ready with his case. This guy never reads anything. He's never prepared.
Yeah, sure. Your Honor, our position is we disagree with that proposition. We are not trying to subpoena an out-of-state witness. We're trying to subpoena materials from a company, and although the company
I'll be right back.
Place of business in another state, by having a registered agent, we believe that gives us jurisdiction. I can understand the company would like to remove this to New York. There is a reporter's privilege in New York that is profound. It is not so in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, there is none. And so I see why it is the company's preference for us to go to New York, to use New York law, but I don't believe that's the case. I believe as a registered agent that we have an entitlement to subpoena them here, and we follow Massachusetts law. There are a couple of cases in the memorandum that I'm not aware of. I think it would be prudent for me to research and shepherdize, and because I think I have an obligation to do that. I would ask you to allow me to have a day to provide a brief supplement. It's not to re-argue the case or the merits of the case, but if there is adverse case law, I want to recognize and acknowledge it. But not.
I'll give you that opportunity, but I will hear from Mr. Albano today since he's here.
Of course. But our position is, although they would like us to go to New York, we can submit it in Massachusetts to the registered agent, and that entitles us to the material. So that's the way we've done it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Albano.
Thank you, Your Honor. The two cases I cited, just to be clear, they address the Uniform Act, which Your Honor dealt with last year. They don't address the specific issue the Commonwealth has raised, which is, okay, you have a registered agent, we serve the registered agent, does that trump the Uniform Act? I have to say, I did not find a case that dealt directly or even indirectly with that. But here's why I believe the service issue does not override the Uniform Act. First of all, we're dealing with a statute. Statute talks about a witness in another state. There's no dispute.
Right, Carrie B?
ABC is a foreign corporation with a principal place of business in New York. Now, the analogous areas I thought of was, okay, let's say someone wanted to sue ABC in this court. Yes, they could serve them.
This is where it froze. I remember this. Let me speed up.
And that just generally explains how this Uniform Act works. You go to the Superior Court here, you get an order, you travel to New York, and New York decides whether the subpoena will issue. The second case, which I think was in re contempt or something like that, was the SJC saying, by the way, the receiving court, and in that case, Massachusetts was the receiving court, we don't just rubber stamp these if there's a privilege issue in our state. And so that's what tells us that if this court issues us an order under the Uniform Act, Commonwealth travels to New York, the New York court then decides, does it enforce it, or does the privilege that exists in New York, is that privilege dispositive? And that's what we say is the right answer here, that yeah, they have a point, they can make service, but it doesn't override the statutory requirements of the Uniform Act. And as to the other, I think things are pretty much under control with the other motions. WBTS, which is NBC 10, has previously published those promotion ads for the show, and they say, well, no, they've already been out, fine, we'll get you copies, and that's what I've been told by the client as well. WFXT, which unlike ABC is here, does have some raw footage. The station's position is that if Your Honor decides under the Rule 17 standard that yes, this footage is relevant enough to come within the Rule 17 scope, then WFXT will produce that information. I do expect it will already be published before it, so the unpublished I do expect won't be unpublished anymore. So they'll probably be in a position where they're simply turning over published information, not unpublished information. But I do think that, so I think WBTS and WFXT are effectively resolved.
Okay. Do you want to respond, Mr. Moran? Thank you, Mr. Albano.
I'd just like to give one example that I'm sure you've thought of, and we see it often in tort law. If U-Haul is a foreign company, I don't know where it's located, but if the principal place of business is in Texas, and there's an accident here in Massachusetts, and I'm requesting as part of my litigation corporate materials, I do not have to follow the Uniform Act to go to Texas or litigate in Texas under Texas law. Because the company operates also in Massachusetts, as does ABC. I can sue in Massachusetts, and that company, this registered agent, is obligated to get those materials for me. Otherwise, a company could simply hide in whatever state is most beneficial to them, make it impossible to litigate or obtain materials, and there would be subterfuge.
Who's the witch?
The entire process.
Halloween's over.
We have jurisdiction here because they.
Halloween's over. Who's the witch? Who's the witch? Let me recognize this. Metaphorical Oracle. I love that name. That's great. Member for 5 months. Thanks for the support. Says the O'Keefes are sitting a mile apart from each other. They 100% are. It's very strange. Kim Fair. Yeah, Kim Fair, the witch. Halloween's over, Kim. Malfeasance, right? Oh, boy. All right, we're kicking off Pink Friday here. If you're just coming into the chat room, if you want to go down and donate to Karen Reed's Defense Fund, the Venmo link, the Venmo is right there. It's Karen/Reed/1, and you can donate, or you can scan the QR code on that side of the screen in the upper, probably left or right. I'm opposite, probably left hand. You can scan your phone there. If not, I'll drop the link, and you can donate directly right here. Rogue just dropped the link. You can drop directly to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. You can put Pink Friday, maybe LTL Media, something like that. Be creative. Let them know that we sent you over there from this channel this evening. All right, we got about another 20 minutes or so, 15 minutes. And then I got a little bonus footage that I'm going to play for everybody because you might have missed this on my channel the other day. All right, let's go.
Operate here because they have a registered agent here. It does not matter where their corporate or their headquarters is. Thank you.
Right, any follow-up, Mr. Albano? Sure.
My first point is that we're dealing with a statute here, and the statute says this is how it works when you have an out-of-state witness in a criminal case. So that's different than civil discovery. The second thing I'd say is ABC has a registered agent here, but WCDB is owned and operated by Hearst Corporation. Hearst Corporation is totally separate from ABC. That's why neither of them could produce the documents in this case. So I just want to be clear that the presence of an ABC affiliate here, owned by an entirely separate company, Hearst, does not mean that ABC is here in Massachusetts. They're a foreign company that has an agent for service process. They don't have offices and the like here in Massachusetts. Are they doing business here in the sense of transmitting ABC news programs through affiliates? I don't argue that. What I'm arguing is there's not the service, the fact that they're subject to service does not override the requirements of the statute.
Is there a distinction between obtaining records and obtaining a person's presence to testify?
The SJC has said in the grand jury case, the first case I cited, that the same procedures apply for documents as for witnesses.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So those are all the Rule 17 motions we have. Am I missing anything? Those are all the Rule 17 motions. All right, so we have some housekeeping matters that I just wanted to check on. I still have the motion to continue under advisement. I need to see how we progress for a bit.
How we progressed for a bit?
Commonwealth's notice regarding the testing of the telematics system. Where do we stand with that, Mr. Brennan? I know you had said you told them that, Thanksgiving rather than Christmas to highlight big holidays, but where are we?
I did. And if I could have done it, had it done quicker, I would have got somebody else.
Unprepared Hank. Here we go.
I have spoken to my expert numerous times. He has coordinated with the defense expert. They are heading to Texas on December 2nd.
Okay.
On December 2nd, they're going to test all of the chips, and there's an SD card that we expect has information on it. And then they're both scheduled to travel back to Massachusetts for December 5th.
Okay.
And they're going to do what's called a chip on, where they take the chips, the SD card, they reapply it to the boards, they put it back in the modules, and they put it in the actual car, because there's different software which will give it even a more fulsome reading.
So what they're talking about, if anybody doesn't know like electronics, okay? So, and I wish I had a circuit board. So what he's talking about is, let's just say this mint container is the circuit board inside that system. And let's just say that this, I don't know if you can see it, but this white barcode here is the chip. What they need to do is do a chip off. So they're going to essentially go in there with a solder iron, take out the point of contacts, lift out that chip on the board, and then transfer that onto a module where they can extract that data. It's a very, very, very delicate process. And the reason I say that is, if you heat the elements underneath that chip, like the little prongs that are inside the circuit board, and say they get too hot and heat goes up into that circuit board, that chip, it can essentially ruin the chip or erase the data on there. I know a little bit about this because I kind of tinkered with electronics through my life, but I also took an exploratory class when I was in high school. What the hell was it? It's probably just like electronics 101, or I don't know, something like that. But I took an exploratory program, and I remember soldering circuit boards, and we made like just cheesy things where like you would solder down, they would give you all the parts that you need. You'd have the blank circuit board, you would construct everything, and it would just have a basic like on-off switch, and it would turn a light on or something like that, or it made a, I don't know, a blinking strobe or something like that. So we got a lot of practice doing that. And I remember, you know, if you heated those chips up too much, I mean, you fry the chip. So that's why in the previous hearing, Alan Jackson's like, it's fine. We want you to extract the data. We have no problem with that, getting the telematics data. We have no problem doing that. But we want our expert there to advise, to watch over this, because if that chip is destroyed, the data is gone forever, ever and ever. That doesn't come back. So it is super, super important to have an expert do this, because it potentially could be dangerous. It could erase all that data. And it could, you know, it's very data that we need for this case. All right, let's go.
And so after the December 5th event is done, I've asked my expert if I could have all results within a week. I have an uncertain response, promised to do his best, which really doesn't give a lot of meaning, but my hope is within 7 to 10 days.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know Ms. Little or Mr. Jackson.
Well, let's see. Wasn't it said that the first trial that the piece was broken? I can't remember. And then why? And someone asked, why wouldn't this be done the first time? You know, I look at it, it's like, because it's going to benefit Karen in the long run. So they probably don't want to go there. And then what you're going to see is they're going to manipulate it like they manipulated those key cycles, where they were trying to play trickery with those key cycles. I guarantee you the information that they get off this is going to clearly benefit Karen Reed. Okay. It's going to say that she never even hit, you know, accelerated, or whatever the hell they're going to try to say via this data. It's going to all be false, just like we saw when they manipulated the key cycles. So essentially that's what's going to happen. They want to extract this data to get their expert, I'm talking about the Commonwealth, extract this data to get it into their experts' hands, and they're just going to manipulate it to say, well, see, she did travel from here to here, she accelerated from here to here. That's what they're going to do. And then the bottom line is, when we get a truthful expert up there from the defense and they explain it, they're going to look like a bunch of jackasses, because it's not going to add up. Just like the key cycles, you know, all that bullshit we went through with the key cycles. All right, let's keep playing here. Almost through this hearing, and then I got a little bonus feature for you all. before we head out. And if you can, please donate to Karen Reed's defense fund down there via the Venmo. It's Karen Reed Karen/Reed/1, and you kick off Pink Friday. And then also the QR code that's on that side of the screen will be super, super helpful for her defense. All right, let's go.
Jackson, if you have the answer to this, the transcripts of the sidebar conferences. Ms. Little, do you have any scheduling idea on when those will be available?
Yes, Your Honor, I do believe
Because they literally have nothing, so they need to manipulate this evidence and this data.
Office with an update. It's going to be a little bit longer than initially expected. One of the reporters had sort of like a family emergency and needed some additional time. And so I believe, and I'll have Mr. Jackson correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she needed until about 6 weeks to get the sidebar conference.
6 weeks from the November 13th date?
6 weeks from about a week after the November 13th date. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Jackson, did you want to speak?
Your Honor, Ms. Little addressed the court specific questions about the transcripts, and that's as accurate a bit of information as I have, so I'll submit on that.
All right, thank you. All right, that is it for today. The Commonwealth is going to file a response to the discovery of communications in possession, custody, and control of the Commonwealth by 11/27, right?
Yes. Your Honor, I provided the defense this morning with a response to their motion. We'll file it with the court.
Excuse me.
It is a request that they made that is very labor and time consuming, but a very important task that I've been involved with. I expended many, many hours, and I need many more. We do have, or I have produced, or I have a production that I'd like to produce to the defense. I've shown them a protective order this morning to see if they were agreeable. I do not want to speak for them.
Yeah, I think so too, Jay.
Protective order.
I agree.
The first production that I produced, and there is.
Jen Altman in the chat. Jen, how are you? Happy Thanksgiving.
Protective order. I have not seen this document.
Good to see you. Hope you had a.
Proposed order.
Let me pause this for a second. Jen, I hope you had a great day. I really do. And it's good to see you here, even if you just pop in for a second. It's great. And I'm going to show it. We're going to get to a little bonus feature here in a second. And I want everybody to see this because I put an end to something the other day. And I had an expert actually tell me how the process of this works. So it's going to be a good little bonus feature here at the end of the live. All right, let's go.
There are a couple of issues related to this motion in addition to the protective order that I'd like to address with the court that I've briefly discussed with Mr. Brennan.
I haven't read this yet, so I won't know what you're talking about.
So I believe you have read our motion, right? The motion that
I read your motion. I haven't.
Right, so it's just in relation to the motion, Judge.
All right.
So
I always love when Eddie gets up there.
Generally speaking, we do not have an objection to a protective order as long as it is issued without prejudice, which I believe Mr. Brennan is in agreement with.
All right, is there one here? Or was there a proposed protective order?
I have it right here, Your Honor. Mr. Brennan provided this to us this morning.
Yeah.
So I have not reviewed that, Your Honor, but I'm asking that the contents be allowed to be shared with the entire defense team, including our attorneys, our interns, and our client. I don't believe Mr. Brennan has an objection to that, but that would be our request with regard to the protective order, with the understanding that we could come back before the court and revisit that if we deem it appropriate.
Is there any objection to the sharing with the
There's no
defense
objection
team?
to the parties they would like to share it with, and I understand it's without prejudice.
Okay.
Yes, and with regard to the motion itself, Your Honor, I had come prepared with an argument for the allowance of the motion. Given Mr. Brennan's, the work that he's done in terms of trying to gather this material and, get it to us along with the protective order, I assume that there's no general objection to the motion, so I don't need to be heard in that regard, assuming the court would allow the motion. But I would raise an issue for the court, actually two issues. One is that we were informed this morning that Mr. Brennan has gone through Mr. Morrissey's cell phone. Apparently is one work cell phone and one personal cell phone. Obviously, the personal cell phone becomes relevant because he used the personal email address to make an ex parte communication with the court. One concern that we have is that we were told this morning that with regard to Mr. Morrissey's text messages, not the emails, but text messages, apparently they're somehow remarkably set to auto-delete after 30 days. That obviously raises
I missed
some questions
this.
for us. Maybe the subject of a future motion, but more.
I missed this when I first watched this. What?
Immediately, the concern is every day that passes, we're losing.
You're losing data that could be valuable to the defense. Exactly, Mr. Yannetti. Great argument.
Messages from 30 days
prior.
So, through today, I believe.
They were preserved, Mr. Brennan?
I've been preserving them since I started the task last week. I'll continue to preserve them.
All right, so that.
Yes, that deals with that issue. So
let's get a protective order on that right away.
With regard to the searches that Mr. Brennan conducted himself, he had searched for all emails sent from Michael Morrissey's iCloud personal email to any emails that had a JUD in the suffix of the email address.
Okay. The significance of that is?
The significance is that would supposedly capture any ex parte communications with members of the judiciary or the clerk's office, and I appreciate that effort. However, we think we assert that it's insufficient. We believe that searches should be done of his iCloud email for the name Reed, spelled R-E-A-D correctly, or Reed R-E-E-D, which is how Mr. Morrissey typed it in his ex parte communication with the court. We don't know if he did that for the purpose of avoiding a FOIA request or if he just misspelled.
And I think Karen made
we believe
light at that too.
For both of those spellings. And in addition, we also believe there should be a search of his email address, the personal email address, for the names of the relevant witnesses, and we can give the court a list, for the names of all judges who have sat on this case, in terms of, is there an attempt to communicate with a judge on some type of personal email account, like he used a personal email account. And then also we believe there should be a search for any clerk's office employees for the same reason, both at Stoughton District Court where this case originated and this court as well.
Real quick, I just want to get this in. Deborah, thank you so much. $25 on Cash App. Thank you. I appreciate that.
We have obviously reason not to trust Mr. Morrissey in light of his actions using this personal email account to make an ex parte communication. And we'd ask that a more thorough search be done for these types of communications.
All right, so why don't you continue to talk with Mr. Brennan and we can have a hearing on this motion if there's anything that you still need on December 12th when we're back here for the Daubert hearing.
That's fair enough. Thank you.
Does that make sense, Mr. Brennan?
It does. I've taken extensive steps to do this myself to accommodate the defense in the most broadest fashion. I'm going to do that. They want to discuss how I can accommodate them, something like that.
Okay. All right. So we will see everyone December 12th. So when do you expect to get me any written material you want me to have prior to the Daubert hearing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Your Honor, we've planning a hearing motion. I need to review it. I'd like to get it to you by the end of the week.
That's great. I expect to be here at the end of the week, so that's great.
Thank you.
And your response by next week, Mr. Yannetti? Ms. Little?
Yes, if we could have it at least a week, Your Honor.
Okay, so I'll give you 10 days,
Thank you.
as long as that gets me before the 12th.
No problem.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, if I can get it, as soon as you can get it. All right. Anything else? Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
May I inquire if the protective order is going to be signed by the defense?
Are you going to sign the protective order, Mr. Yannetti?
I expect I will, without prejudice.
I have the materials. I'll just wait.
Okay. All right, so if you sign it, then I'll endorse it, Mr. Yannetti. You had it, right? Ms. Little gave it to us just now?
I believe we just gave our copy to the court.
Yes. All right, so this is the one that needs to be signed and I'll endorse it. Do you want to take a look at it?
Yes.
I think that, it's funny, and I'm just going to bring this up for context, but Jay says, I hope they use a better dog expert, not Russell. She wasn't good. I just want to use this as a context. You got to think. She was literally just flown in 24 hours, bam, had to jump on the stand, couldn't prepare for anything. But I think I'm going to do an episode probably this week of things that I would like to see the defense do this time around if we go to Karen Read 2.0. I think that'd be a great episode to go through. Things that I would like to see the defense do this time around. And maybe different ways to attack this in different ways. So I think that'll be a good episode. I'm going to put that together for some time this week. And I think that'll be a really good episode. Things that the Read team could do this time around. I can tell you one that I want to see. I want to see a reenactment of what ARCA put together. That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought that ARCA was going to get up and have a recreation video and say, we had the data that was given to us. We did these experiments. We came to this conclusion, and this would be the reenactment of how it would look. And I thought they were going to put a video up and demonstrate it and say there's no possible way this could have happened and gone through that. I think that would have been, really, really interesting. But I think that's something that I might do. I might put that together and just put some thoughts together. And I thought that would be really, really good to go through that. I just want to recognize this. I saw our super sticker come in. Deborah, thank you so much. $20 super sticker. We got a little bit more, about 8 more minutes here. And then I got a bonus video that I want to play for everybody and finally put something to rest. And then Jason says, yeah, they definitely need to do a visual for the jury. I think so, true. And then you do this kind of reenactment based on Trooper Paul's statements in the last trial. And you just show the ridiculous demonstration that he came up with. And you just compare and contrast. And I think it'd be great for the jury. Okay, let's play this. I think it's going to be more scheduling stuff right now. Probably not much more of significance here. Let's see.
I don't think have an electronic signature. I'll just sign this as well since you're here. Just sign that and I will endorse it.
This is pretty much the end of it, I think. I just want to recognize.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, and I appreciate counsel in the third.
Real quick, I just want to recognize Brian, Julie. Thanks for the $5 on Buy Me a Coffee. She said, Brian, I love catching your lives. Free Karen Read, keeping the good fight from Melbourne, Australia. We had a lot of Aussies in here today. Thank you. I appreciate that. So we'll add $5 to the total as well. This is going to conclude the hearing, but I want to play a little bonus video before I go out. And actually, before I do that, let me show you this. I think this is great, and I just made this little side-by-side compare. Now, look at, I see it. Maybe you all see it. I don't know. You tell me. Do you see it? I see it. I see it. And I just threw that up on Twitter and on Facebook. So if you want to grab it, share it, whatever you want to do. But I definitely see it. I definitely see it. All he needs is the bow tie, and he's right there. All he needs is the bow tie. That's all we need. Oh, I love it. All right. Let me do this. Let me do this bonus video for everybody. I got to move my camera down. It's too tall. I got too much headspace up here. I got to bring that down. Bring it down. I'm going to move it after the show. But I want to do this. I want to play something because I want to put everything to rest because a lot of you might have not seen this the other day. I had I had Todd McGee on my show, and I asked him a question about Trooper Proctor and Trooper Proctor's status and Trooper Proctor being fired. And I want to kind of put all this to rest. So I'm going to play this video for you all. Expert and would know. I mean, he was on the Mass State Police Force for over 20 years, and I got a direct answer. And I just wanted to kind of put this all to rest if you haven't seen it. So let's play this here. Again, the status of Trooper Proctor. What I wanted to ask you is, and just going back to my slide, is let's talk about internal affairs investigations. So I'm just going to back up a little bit here in this slide. Obviously, the latest scandal, and this is terrible, horrible, Mass State Police trooper suspended amidst sexual misconduct allegations. And this was the article here. Sexual misconduct allegations were related to an incident in Lexington. The DA and police are independently investigating. So my question is, what is the process of an investigation like this, and how are these things handled?
Let me first say something you might be surprised to hear me say, but if the allegations are true from that misconduct, that trooper should be fired immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately. To answer your question regarding the internal affairs, it's important for your viewers to understand that internal affairs is an internal administrative investigation. There are no charges assessed against the person that the complaint is against. The investigators are fact finders, right? Typical investigation, like you would think in any other circumstance.
I just want to recognize this. Brenda, thank you so much. Says, hey, BLT, and Mazza could be the mayo. When it comes to your show, it will be BLT with mayo on the side. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for the 5. I appreciate that. Let's see. And let's go on with this video here.
You're on a fact-finding mission.
Status.
Once the investigators are finished with their investigation, they will then make a recommendation, I believe, to a trial board is the group or the entity that's assembled, and then there's a recommendation that goes up to the superintendent's office. And then the trial board will assess the violations or the alleged violations that may have been corroborated in the investigation against violations of against policies and procedures. And then from there is a class 1, class 2, class 3, and it goes on from there. Some violations could be, you've seen, like with Lieutenant Tully, he got suspension, days taken off the books. You might see disciplinary measures all the way up to, like we saw at Proctor, discipline with you're suspended without pay. Right. But you're still a member of the department. You're just not receiving compensation as whatever process is going on. It could be something where you have a 6-month suspension and then you're brought back to the job. In that case, you have to go through some retraining. So there's a bunch of things that could be the outcome of a internal affairs investigation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the type of, I guess, discipline we would think with Tully here, knowing, being in those awful text messages connected to Proctor and in the Karen Reed case. I mean, it was almost, to us, Free Karen Reed supporters and the supporter of Karen Reed, a slap in the face. Then obviously we have Trooper Proctor that is still currently suspended, and they just, there was got to add without pay, but we're gonna put this to rest. Let's hear this. Let's hear about Proctor. And they just, there was a piece of controversy that came up about 2 weeks ago that was put out there via social media that Proctor had been fired. And I know that ultimately, I went out and I sat on it for a second, and I wanted to do my research, and I waited. And I didn't see anything from the local media hitting. I didn't see Turtle Boy jumping on his platform right away and saying, Proctor's been fired. I didn't, and that's why, I reached out to you and I said, could you give us give me maybe a status update on Proctor and what the process of that would be as far as being transparent with the public. So, my question is, a trooper status after an investigation or suspension, does that have to be transparent to the public? And we talked a little bit about this in the green room. So let me throw a scenario at you. If Trooper Proctor was fired, what is the process of that? And would it have to be transparent to the public?
A decision from the superintendent's office, Colonel Noble, will document the status change, right? When you hear status, that's what we're making reference to. The status change is suspension without pay to dishonorable discharge, meaning termination. That's what we mean by status change. That would be, again, posted at every unit, every barracks within the Commonwealth. And at that point, that is just the completion of an administrative act. That termination doesn't necessarily mean that there are charges being brought up against Trooper Proctor. That being said, there's still the federal investigation that's in the background of this thing, right? That's not going to go away. Probably worthy of another video at this point, but it's just the completion. If that termination comes full scale, it's the completion of an administrative process. So that's why I say it's not necessarily hiding that status change from the general public. And also, as we both agree, that because this is the highest profile case in Massachusetts at the time, that every journalist, every media outlet is going to know in a nanosecond when that status change happens.
I completely agree. And that's why I was just like, this is wrong. And I'm seeing like my friends all over Facebook, social media, oh, Proctor's been fired, Proctor's been fired. I'm like, no, I think we all know that at some point, Todd, after all this goes down and we're getting ready to, we're heading towards Karen Reed 2.0 here. And you just, earlier when we were talking, you said, well, look what happened just immediately after the verdict. What information did we get? Bam. It was almost like the press release was ready. Not even an hour after we got the verdict, we heard Trooper Proctor is now been suspended. I'm always going to guarantee everybody, I'm going to say this to the audience, and maybe Todd will agree with me. They're not going to actively fire Proctor now, meaning the Commonwealth. Karen Reed 2.0 coming on. Brian Walsh's case. He was the lead state police investigator in that. So they have to sort through that. And then he probably has, dozens of other active cases that he's involved in. So in my opinion, and maybe Todd can concur on this, that it's probably not going to happen until if we get to Karen Reed 2.0 and a completion and a verdict. We're going to probably hear right after that that he's been fired. That's probably when they're going to announce it. Am I wrong?
Brian, I don't think you're wrong. I think that's a scenario that could likely play out. But I'm going to add on to what you just broke down.
Sure.
And bring back the DA Morrissey element of things, right? He's still in the mix. He's still in the mix. In his influence, in who's going to be assigned, to prosecute the case and all that's his call. So until he steps down from his office, he's a player in this. So, love it, hate it, however people feel about it, DA Morrissey is still in the mix of this whole thing.
And now we're hearing reports that he was using a private email server and what was on those things in the communication. It's just, it's one of the most wildest cases that I've ever heard in the existence of cases that have happened. And it's just every other day there's something else that's new and a new element of corruption or whatever you want to call it in this.
And you don't think Jackson and you don't think Jackson and Unetti are going to use that?
No, of course they are. Of course they are. Good stuff. So I want to play that for you all if you missed it. And I'll drop the link there if you want to share it. Yeah. We would have known about it by now. I think I missed a couple of chats here. Let me go down. I saw love and is a 4-letter word became a new member. Thank you so much. Jen Fox. Thank you, Jen. $5 says thank you for all that you do for this movement. Thank you. I appreciate it. So That, my friends, and I think I'm just getting another chat that just came in, $10 for the love of. Happy Thanksgiving, Brian. To Brian and the beautiful people here, sending positive thoughts and lots of love from California. Free Karen Reed, free Turtle Boy, hashtag go away. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. We are currently at $710. Let's do this. Let's round it. Let's round it to like 710. We're at 710. 25% is at 177. We'll make it 180. 180 to the Karen Reed Defense Fund. So I'm going to drop that in the bucket for Karen tonight. And we'll kick off this Pink Friday. Please donate down below. The crawl's there. You can Karen/Reed/1. And up above, if you want to scan the QR code. And I'll keep sharing that throughout the month of December. And like I said, there's almost 37,000 subscribers on this channel. If every subscriber on here gave $5, it would be $180,000 that would go to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. And even if you just got half of that, $90,000 into Karen Reed's Defense Fund. So we're going to make that donation. I'll put the receipt up on my Facebook page. You'll be able to go up and see it on the defense link. I'll put LTL Media, Pink Friday Kickoff. I'll put the date. We'll put the 180 up there. And I'll post the receipt up on my YouTube community page as well, too, so you can see the receipt. But listen, I want to thank everybody. I hope everybody had a happy and healthy Thanksgiving. I appreciate all your outpour of support here for LTL Media and for Karen. It makes a huge difference. It really helps. And, you know, Karen needs to get a lot of money for her defense right now. And I'm still working again with Nick Rocco with those signed in their prints. They're not poster. It's an actual print. It's a photo print. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. I have a solo signature on one with Karen, and then we have all 4 family members that sign the other. We're going to get those up in the Justice Group, start getting some raffle tickets for those, and 100% of the proceeds will go to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. I'd love to see $5 grand, 10 grand for the solo one, and I'd love to see 20, 50 grand for all 4. I mean, signatures. It would be great. It really would be great. And to get that money into Karen's Defense Fund so she can keep hiring experts, flying in experts, food for her attorneys, food while she's at court, you know, anything that they need, paper, supplies, pens, whatever it may be, to help contribute to her defense, to help her get out of this terrible situation. We need to do that. We need to do that. And I just want to wish, again, everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving here. I appreciate all of your support. And thank you so much for being here. We're going to do it. We're going to get through this. I promise. And I want to thank all of the creators, the boots on the ground people that put in tons of work, just like myself here on this channel. Every little thing that you can do. Even if you're just in here watching the lives and maybe you're on a limited fixed income, just coming to these lives, being part of these communities and spreading the message of Free Karen Reed, that's all we ask you to do. Tell someone, tell your neighbor, tell your friends, tell your family, share her story and share the story that this innocent woman is being framed in the state of Massachusetts for Officer John O'Keefe's death. Let people know that of what's going down here in Norfolk County, the corruption that is going on here in Canton, Norfolk County, and Massachusetts, throughout the Massachusetts State Police, through the Canton Police Department. People need to know this story. Any positive press that we can get, any positive light, any eyes that we can get on this case is one eye more that wasn't there the day before. So with that being said, everybody enjoy the rest of their day. I'm not sure if there's any other creators streaming tonight. Quite possibly. I know Galera was in here earlier. Maybe he's got something going on after this. I don't know. Let me actually just go check his channel out. Maybe he does. But a lot of people just took the day off. I have energy. I'm like, I got to go. I don't see anything posted up. Maybe he does something later on. Sometimes he's spontaneous and does that. But please make sure to go out and follow all the awesome subscribers. I mean, awesome creators that do their work here to give Karen positive press, because she's not getting that in the mainstream media. We know that. And please support all your local people that do all the boots on the ground work. Go out, be with them, stand with them, hold the sign, create your own standout, whatever it may be, because it definitely does help. We all put in a lot of hard work, and I want to keep the unity going. We got to keep the unity going, and a lot of love in our hearts. And I have a lot of love in my heart for all of you, for all the people that do the work that they do and they put in, and it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And I get it. I get it. I've been there. I've been doing it just right along with all of you. Some of you have been in this longer than me, and I admire you and I appreciate you. And there's a lot of love in my heart, and I do appreciate it. So that's going to be it today, everybody. I am Brian. They call me BLT. I'm the BLT master. I hope everybody had plenty of BLTs for Thanksgiving, and I will be back. I have a long weekend ahead of me. I work in sales, so you know what that means. Tomorrow kicks off Black Friday. Fun stuff. So I'm probably not going to be around a lot this weekend. Maybe I can sneak in something for Sunday night, but if not, I definitely know I'll be hitting the bricks hard next week, and I look forward to seeing all of you. So that's going to be it. We'll get the $180 in the Karen Reed Defense Fund, drop it in the bucket for Kickoff Pink Friday, and please make sure to keep donating to that Pink Friday. I think it's going to run through the month of December. We need to give everything we can to Karen Reed right now and help her out, because she's gearing up for one hell of a trial again. And it sucks. It really sucks. I wish we were in a better position right now, but we're going to get through it. We're positive. We got this. Channel the energy. I love all of you. Have a great night. Peace.